Broadcasting live from Youngville, North Carolina and Ontario, Canada, this is Got Mead Live, a weekly show where Vicky Rowe and AJ Airmans bring you the mead news, meadery info, and mead-making discussions from all over, talking with mead makers, mead owners, industry mavens, and influencers. This is Got Mead Live, a weekly podcast about mead and the people who love it and where the mead world is going. And now here are your hosts, Got Mead owner Vicky Rowe and mead and wine maker AJ Airmans.
Live from the den of the puppies of the apocalypse, the Bunny Pen in Ottawa, Canada, and possibly Melbourne Down Under, because Hamish is trying to find his headset. It's Got Mead Live. Welcome to the show. We've been gone for about a month, but that's because we had Mead Week, which comprises MeadCon, the AMMA MeadCon, and the Mazer Cup International. It was a good week. We had a great time. The speakers were awesome. Even with the power going out in the middle of the first day from the bomb cyclone snowstorm, we had 4 sessions happen with no power, and the speakers were amazing. They like had people huddled up around like they were sitting around a fire listening to stories, and everybody really just had a great time. And yeah, AJ just said we've been gone for a month. We've been drunk the whole time. Not really.
No. It's lyrics from Spirit of the West.
Oh,
we've been gone for a month. We've been drunk since we left.
Yeah. No.
These so-called vacations will soon be my death. I'm so sick from the drink. I need home for a rest. And that's about how we were feeling by the end of it.
Yeah. By the end of it, we didn't want to see Mead anytime soon, and
No.
I had no voice left, and literally it was like 4 days after I got home last Monday before I even started to get my voice back, and you can probably hear it's still pretty raspy. So very likely I won't have a voice again after the show tonight, but that's all right. It'll be back by next week. So all in all, a good time was had by all. We had record attendance. The Mazer Cup was amazing. There were some absolutely astonishingly good meads, and it gets better every year if that's possible. I had the pleasure of scoring one that was ended up being 299 total points on the commercial side, and it was so good.
Cool.
Yeah, it was really, really great. So, yeah, it was pretty awesome. Can't wait to go again, but we need to rest up for a while first.
Oh yeah, jeez.
That'll take a lot.
Break.
Oh God, yeah, it'll take a lot out of you.
Well, just the traveling's stressful enough.
Oh yeah. Well, at least the travel back wasn't as tore up as the travel out. I actually got Southwest to give me they're giving me a travel voucher for a big discount on a flight after they cocked up my flight out so badly. So
Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can swing one for having gotten smushed in when I paid extra for legroom.
yeah, well, that was what I told them. I'm like, I paid for an early flight. I paid for better seating. I ended up with a later flight, lost a whole day, had to spend 2 hours in Nashville, and ended up in the bottom pile. The C pile with Southwest means you're lucky to get a seat and then not standing there holding straps like a subway car. So, yeah. Anyway, so
Right.
We're back. And,
Back to Mead.
Yeah, back to Mead, getting back on track again. So all y'all know, we volunteered to do this because we're stupid. No, because we're mead lovers, and it's a lot of fun to do it. And but unfortunately, I had to about double my hosting costs, and I'm ended up paying close to $400 a month for a dedicated server because all of the stuff that Got Mead has takes up so bloody much space. And it got really, really slow. For those of you that go on the site, you will have known this. It's faster now, thank God. But so if you're a patron, if you've been a patron in the past, if you signed up in the last couple of weeks, then definitely thank you so much. Really, really
Thank
appreciate
you. You're
it.
awesome.
Yeah, you really are, because that helps. And anytime I don't have to dip into the family funds and piss off John is a good thing. So Hamish just joined us, and it's so hard to tell what time it is between here and there. And he's not sure, like, is it time yet? Yeah, it is. So Anyway, if you aren't a patron member and you spend time on Got Mead or you feel like Got Mead's helped you, it's patron membership is only $30 a year, so that's like 50 cents a week. And you get access to the patron boards on the Got Mead forum, the patron Facebook group, the award-winning recipes contained within the patron areas, and you're helping to keep everything going, to keep the site going, to keep us on the air, and to do the things that we want to do to help bring more mead to more people. So thank you if you've already done that, and if you're thinking about it, thank you in advance, and we appreciate it. If you want to listen to us, you can always catch us live on the Got Mead website. Just go to gotmead.com, and we are, Hamish is typing things. Type back at him, AJ. I can't look at him and talk at the same time. You can go to gotmead.com and just click on Got Mead Live Radio Show, and the player's there. When we're live, then the player will be live. Otherwise, it shows whatever our most recent show was. If you want to catch us on the flip side and on your drive time or while you're making mead or what have you, we are on iTunes, SoundCloud, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, YouTube, and Google Play. Just search Got Mead Live. And you can also download directly from the gotmead.com page as well if you want to just download the files directly. You can find us online at, of course, gotmead.com. You can catch us at Facebook at facebook.com/gotmead, and our main group is facebook.com/groups/gotmead. Twitter, we are at GotMead Now. Feel free to tweet us during the show if you like. I'm usually watching the feed. And you can also, if you go to the website, there's a chat link on any of the episode pages, and you can click to get on our live chat on Slack. So feel free to join us during the show. We're live during the show on Slack talking about whatever. And if you want to send us questions, recommendations of people we need to be talking to, things like that, feel free to go to gotmead.com, put your mouse over Got Mead Live Radio Show, and the drop down is a link that you can click to take you to a form where you can send us the information. And we appreciate that. And of course, if you want to call into the show, and it actually works these days, you can call us at 803-443-MEAD. That's 803-443-6323. I always feel like I run out of air during that. All right, so what are you drinking, AJ?
I have got the second half of that bottle of Wolfcraft, which is the blood orange honey wine from Wild Blossom Meadery and Winery in Chicago. I'm being terrible and drinking it right from the bottle tonight. And I'm pretty sure it tastes just as good as it did when I put the cork back in after it popped out. Because, carbonated and it warmed up a little. Hee. I think it hit the ceiling. So, yeah, this is really nice. I quite enjoy this, and I'm glad I've only got the half a bottle left because, of course, I got to go into work again tonight.
Oh, of course. You guys still got snow on the ground?
Yeah, although what's on my balcony is now down from about the size of a hot tub to what would fit in my kitchen sink. So
yeah.
So what are you drinking?
I have a bottle of I have a glass, and the bottle is in the kitchen where I can't get at the rest of it without getting off my computer. Of Oppegaard Meadery's plum mead that I picked up when I went to Washington on the around the country trip 2 years ago. And it's really nice. I'm a plum mead nut. I love the stuff. And so I totally glommed onto this when I tried it at Oppegaard's. It was just amazing. It's nicely sweet, but not too sweet. Very smooth, almost silky. It's got a really nice round mouthfeel to it. And my bottle's oxidized a little bit, probably because it got lugged in the trailer halfway around the country. But it still has this amazing plummy note with the honey all laced through that and this really long fruity finish. And he actually was laughing at me today because I told him, I posted online that I was going to be drinking it. And he's like, how interesting. I'm actually making more. So if you like plum wine, or if you just like the flavor of plum, Oppegaard Mead's Plum Mead is really good. And you can get yours at opmead.com. That's opmead.com. Because nobody can spell Oppegaard properly. So
that's fair.
Yeah. And I don't know if Hamish, are you on now? Did you get
Good evening, everybody.
There he is.
Hamish, yay!
I do have to apologize. My audio is probably terrible tonight because I am ill-equipped. I've been off the air too long, and I've lost half my gear. So
Oh, dear.
today, as it is just barely midday, I haven't actually cracked a bottle of anything yet, and I'm finishing off my third coffee.
Well, coffee's a good thing for the middle of the day.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, coffee is good. It is the middle of the day. Sorry for the mix up on the time. We went back to standard time about a week ago. So, we're back off from you guys on a different hour now. So, you know.
Yeah, just
You know,
trying
we
to trick
do
me
that.
an hour early.
Yeah, we do that deliberately just to piss off Australian people. That's the whole reason
Totally.
we do it. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's got nothing to do with pissing off all the rest of us.
No. It's just because our Australian friends can then not tell what time it is here. I had Bruce call last week, and he's like, "What time is it?" And I had to tell him he had no idea. Which, for those of you who know who Bruce is, friend of Hamish's and a really great guy, came to the Major Cup a couple years ago with Hamish. Bruce is now in Tasmania, which is way cool. I'm already trying to figure out a way to get down there to visit. So, he's got a good new job, and he's really enjoying it and having a good time. He called me the other night. So
Yeah,
tonight,
it's an awesome place to visit.
is it? It sounds like it's really pretty from what I've seen picture-wise and stuff. It looks like it's a really pretty place.
For sure. Yeah, it's lovely. It's got some wonderful scenery, but there's not many people and not much habitation.
Nothing wrong with that. We spent most of our time out in the woods when I was there. I mean, just on the ends we were, and a little bit in the middle we were in towns. Rest of the time we were roaming about on, fabulous rocks and things like that.
Indeed, yes.
Yeah, so it was pretty cool. Okay, so tonight we have Jon Oppegaard, coincidentally, drinking his mead. He's the owner of Oppegaard Meadery. They are in Tukwila, Washington, which is, I think, about an hour north of Seattle, if I remember correctly. It's a really neat place, and I think they've expanded just in the last year because he started doing this mainly because he really liked mead, couldn't find a lot of mead, and it was killing his pocketbook anyways. And then he was making so much at home, he's like, why not start a business? So he did, thinking, I'll get my mead and my friends and family will get their mead and everybody will be happy. And then it just took off. So they've had to expand and, so they're doing really well. And this is great because he makes really good mead. So we're going to get him in here. And in fact, I will bring him in now.
Woohoo!
Woohoo! And hopefully it's calling him right now. It's kind of hard to tell. It looks like it's trying to. John, you make it in?
I did. Hello.
Amazing! For those of you who don't know, Skype hates Jon Oppegaard's number. Kept trying to tell me that it was an invalid number. I had to jump through all kinds of hoops to get it to work. So fortunately it did. But, we just get out there. We really hate Skype. It just sucks. And, Microsoft can bite me. But yeah.
One of these days it probably will.
Well, actually it has a few times already, but that's a different story altogether. So, John, I was just bragging on your plum mead and telling people that you're making more. So, when they start asking, I'm really sorry. It was my fault.
Well, that's totally okay. And yeah, I am making more. It's almost done. It'll probably pop up on the website in the next week or two here.
Oh, cool. I'll have to get me another bottle then. Mine's still pretty good at 2 years old. It took a little bit of an oxidation hit, and I think it was because after I got it from you, of course, I went through all of California and then all the way back across the country to North Carolina in the south and, in the middle of the summer. So even though the trailer has air when we're pulling the thing, the air is not running. So there were some temperature changes in the trailer that some of the meads took effects from. So it's got a little bit of oxidation, but it's still really awesome.
Nice. Yeah, I tell a lot of people that half the time I think mead tastes better with a little bit of oxidation. That's half the reason I put everything in barrels. That I can anyways.
I would tend to agree.
I'm so glad I'm not the only one who thinks that, because I find just a hint of oxidation can actually really make it nice.
Well, I think.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it depends on the mead, but yeah, I mean, I'm a big believer that most sizers benefit from just enough
Mm,
oxidation to give it that rich sherry. It gives it a whole
mm-hmm.
different dimension. It doesn't need to be a
Absolutely.
lot, just a little bit. But so, John, for those who don't already know who you are, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got into this obsession slash hobby?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Well, I've been making mead for a little while. It's been, I don't know, I guess I have to think about it, a little over 10 years probably. Um, it all started because I fell completely in love with it. I was already kind of a beer snob, and a bit of a cider snob as well. I found
Ah,
mead, immediately fell in love with it, and then bought all of it my pocketbook would let me. And as I'm sure you're all well aware, there's no such thing as cheap mead. You can't go to the store and buy a case of it for $5.
Mm.
So, so I thought, you know what? I think I'll save a few bucks and I'll just try to make it myself. The first few batches were pretty much garbage. I dumped a decent amount of it out because it was just so gross, and I just had no idea what I was doing. But I was determined, and I knew if people out there could do it, then why couldn't I? I knew there wasn't any special equipment or anything involved. It's just a matter of figuring out the process. I started to get the hang of it, and before I knew it, my batches had grown so large in size that it didn't really make sense for me to make it in my house anymore. When my third kid showed up, I lost my mead room. That turned out to be his bedroom, and it made practical sense to start a meadery. I wasn't really trying to grow it into a business. It wasn't going to ever be my full-time job. It was just kind of one of those things where I thought, man, it'd be so great if enough people stopped by that they just covered my rent. And then I could have all this mead for myself and a cool place to make it. That's really all I was shooting for. And it just kind of blew up overnight. It only took 2 months before I quit my job. And that's all I've been doing. I like to joke that I haven't had a real job for a little over 2 years. It's a decent amount of work, but it still doesn't feel like a job to me.
that's cool though. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, my quote unquote real job is living in the mead world and working with meaderies and the MMA and that stuff. And it's like sometimes I wake up and go, huh, I don't know how this happened, but it's really cool.
Right, and then you pinch yourself to make sure that you aren't still asleep, right?
Right, yeah, that like I'm not still in a cubicle farm somewhere in Research Triangle Park.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a very cool job to have. Well, I could attest to the fact that it took off because when I was there, y'all had that cheesecake. Jesus, that cheesecake.
That stuff is magic, isn't it?
Oh man, it's wicked. And is it the frosting that's made with mead or the whole cake?
Both.
Oh
Both.
jeez.
So he puts the mead, whatever mead we're releasing, he pours that mead into the cake and into the frosting. And it depends on the cake as far as how much goes in there, but it's usually at least like half or 3/4 of a 750 milliliter into each cake. And it keeps growing. It's gotten to the point where, depending on how popular I think a mead is going to be on any given release day, I'm getting like 3 or 4, and I'm cutting like the tiniest little slices for everybody because I don't want to run out. But everybody loves it so much. The one time I did a release where I didn't have cheesecake, I got all these like really fancy, delicious smoked cheeses, and I like cut them up into little pieces, laid them all across the table. There was like 4 or 5 different kinds. They were amazing, made by a local guy. Every
so
single
cool.
person who walked in saw those and goes, why didn't you do cheesecake? I mean, I guess smoked cheese is fine, but like, where's the cheesecake? So I learned my lesson there. I can't release anything without having cheesecake. Apparently it just pisses everybody off.
Well, I just say I think it was one of the first times when I was there. It was one of the first times you'd done the cheesecake thing, or it was early on in the cheesecake series, anyway. And
Oh yeah, I think
yeah,
you might have shown up for the very first one.
I think you had like 6 or 7 different cheesecakes, and the place was absolutely mobbed. I mean, it was standing room only, and it was so cool. I was so impressed, you know. And yeah, the cheesecakes were amazing. They really were good.
Oh.
Yeah, he's so good at making cheesecakes. I mean, I remember when I released the taco mead, I had a whole plan for a release party, and it all kind of fell through. So at the last minute, I texted them and like, hey, I'm kind of only half joking, half serious. can you make a cheesecake that tastes good with the taco mead? And he was like, yeah, no problem. Drop off a couple bottles. And he did. He made this like dulce de leche sauce with the same spices that were in the taco mead, and it paired with the taco mead so incredibly well. And every time I tell this story to people, they roll their eyes at me because they think that there's no way a taco flavored mead and cheesecake can work. But that's just how good this guy is. Like every single
That's
time.
amazing.
So I no longer
Nice.
doubt his abilities. I just drop off bottles and say do whatever you want, and it's always fantastic.
It's
He's so
amazing.
good.
Christian Daning on the or Dang, sorry Christian, I'm mangling your last name. Is saying next is a cheesecake mead on the chat. So
Nice.
the taco
Well,
mead was like amazing. I mean, there's a few savory meads out there. Ash has got one over at Sap House, and his is more kind of like, herbal savory, kind of thing. And more like something that would go like with like a turkey dinner. And you came out with this taco mead, and I'm sitting over here going, "What the?"
Mm.
And
yeah,
just whatever possessed you to go in that direction, and how the hell did you do it?
it was a joke.
Some of the best meads
wasn't-
were.
Right? I mean, all I did was a few days before Cinco de Mayo. It was the first year that I was open, and me and my dad were sitting having a conversation, and I told him, nobody's going to come to a Viking meadery on Cinco de Mayo. I'm going to do something silly to get a couple people to show up. And he's like, well, what? And I'm like, I'm just going to pour a packet of taco seasoning into a bottle of traditional and see what happens. And he was like, no, I got this. So he, fresh back from Mexico, like no joke. He'd been back from Mexico for like 4 days. He went to the store, picked up all the spices, dumped them into just a jug of traditional. And it was just, we weren't ever going to sell it or anything like that. It was just kind of a thing we just do, free samples of sort of deal. And it tasted like tacos. Like you take a drink and you get the joke, like it's kind of taco-ish, but about a second or two later, when the aftertaste kind of hits you, it all kind of comes together and it feels like you just took a bite out of a taco. I mean, it was just spot on.
Wow.
And I told every single person who came in that day that I would never sell this thing because it's going to blow up and I'm going to become known as the taco meat guy. And I
think it's a little too late for that. You're already you didn't really release it, and you're still the taco meat guy. So
I know. Well, I did end up releasing it eventually because after so many people came and asked for it, reviews started popping up online. At one point, there was more reviews on Untapped for my taco mead than any other mead, even though I hadn't actually sold it. So like literally every single person who tried it felt like they had to go online and talk about it. And so this girl shows up one day, and I remember it clear like it was yesterday, and she poked her head in the door, and all she said was, "Hey, are you that guy that makes a taco flavored alcohol? I'm trying to get a bottle." And I said, "No, but you know what? You just convinced me. I'm gonna make it for real." And we stuck it in bottles, and the day we released it, like half of it sold out on that very first day. And then a couple weeks went by, and I thought, oh crap, nobody's gonna buy the rest of this stuff. And the internet found out about it, and then it disappeared real quick.
wow, yeah, I remember hearing that it was because I was gonna get a bottle, and then it was like gone the next second.
yeah. As soon as, I mean, there's a couple of posts where people were like, "What's the weirdest mead you've ever had?" on various mead forums, and there'd be like half the people there would be like, "There's this jerk who makes a taco flavored mead in Washington," and so it just kind of became a thing. I'm gonna do it again. I've already got plans to. I think on Cinco de Mayo I'm gonna release it again, and I'm gonna have a taco truck park out in front of my shop and sell tacos, and I think I'm gonna put Viking horns on a sombrero just to make it really dumb.
Oh yeah, totally. Why not run with it? It works,
Yeah, it keeps making me laugh. Like it's not, the joke hasn't stopped being funny to me yet, so I'm gonna keep going.
Yeah.
That's the best kind of jokes, really.
Yeah, well, and people like it. It's mead you can sell. You have to sell
Right.
what they like.
Well,
They apparently like this.
I don't know if anybody really likes it though. I mean, I'm not sure that's accurate. Like very, very few people actually enjoyed it. I mean, it was
much of it is
usually
just
just
for the
it was
novelty, eh?
funny. Exactly. It was just a novelty. I mean, I remember there was one guy who looked like he was going to punch me in the face, and he looked at me straight in the eye, and he was like, "This is the worst thing I've ever drank in my entire life." And I kind of shrugged my shoulders and I said, "I'm sorry. Like, it's just a joke. Do you want to try something else?" And he's like, "No, I got to go, but I'll take a case if you don't mind."
Wow.
Like, what do you say to that?
How much? But yeah, well, I would look at him and go, so how much will you buy if I let you taste something you'll really like?
I didn't take them.
Right?
I didn't take them over.
Yeah.
God, that's funny. Hamish, you got back chatter there.
Yeah, no, that was before we went.
Hamish, mute yourself.
I hear a few voices all at once here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's Hamish is on his phone. He couldn't find his
Jordan,
headset, so
I took my car.
he's doing that. Hamish.
My car.
He may not have a mute button on
I
his
didn't
phone.
take the van.
Yeah. All right, so we got back chatter from Hamish. You want to know what's going on in
Right.
Hamish's family life?
already
You'll be
thought
able to
about
listen
that.
and find out.
Listen real carefully.
Right? Yeah.
Dear.
So I just thought that was
What?
just so funny because, it was like taco meat, what the hell? And, and then I watched it online as you were sort of updating it. It was like, and it just went poof.
That's nuts.
Yeah. It disappeared so quickly. And then I meant to do it last year again, but Cinco de Mayo fell right in the middle of my move.
Oh,
And when you
yeah.
move locations, you have to redo all the alcohol licenses, and that took quite a bit of time. So that kind of killed those plans. But it'll happen again. Taco meat is not gone forever.
That's good. That's good to know. And I'm sure there's taco meat aficionados out there that are going, yes.
Oh yeah, for sure. And if you want to know how to make it, it's really easy. It was just cumin, garlic, bay leaves, and a little bit of red peppers. It was kind of on the low end of semi-sweet. That without being really really honey, having a really strong honey flavor. The honey kind of did a decent job of mimicking the shell, at least in your brain. So you can't make it too sweet. But that was pretty much it. I taught a guy over in Europe who was desperate to try it, how to make it. He just made it on his own, and I got the longest string of like curses and compliments at the same time from the guy after he was done.
Apparently, Hamish has his mute on in reverse, so he knows it now. Yeah, maybe next time.
Apologies for that, guys.
Yeah, shit
completely
happens,
unintentional.
man. It's shit happens. It's not like
All
this
good.
is like ABC or something. And they do that stuff too sometimes. So there. Yeah.
Yes, they do.
Yeah. One of the things I've noticed that other home and professional mead makers are doing in different parts of the country when they're working on a food like mead is sometimes they bring in that character. Like there's people that are doing pie and they're actually putting pie crust in the fermentation. They're putting graham crackers in the fermentation, stuff like that. You should do an experimental and throw like taco shells in there.
just drop the whole shell in there.
Yeah, do it like a
suppose I
hard
could.
side taco because those have more flavor than burrito shells are pretty flavorless. They just
Right.
hold the meat together,
Right.
But taco shells
Well,
got a
I
taste.
did. There you go. I did run into an issue trying to get the label approved by the TTB because I originally wanted to call it taco mead. And anytime you have something with the word mead, it has to be literally from in there in the tank. And since I don't have tacos in there, I couldn't call it taco mead. So maybe on this next go around, I should just throw some little tacos in there, and then I'd be able to call it what I wanted to in the first place.
Yeah, you only need to put one in a 1,000-gallon batch, and then it can be taco made, right?
Right.
Or you
Just one
call it
taco. It doesn't even have to be plural, right? Just one singular
Yeah.
taco. That's all.
Yeah, just take one taco, put it in a bag, and like lower it in, and then pull it right back out, and you put the taco in there.
Or
I
you
think we
could just
figured it out.
call it Cinco de Mayo mead.
Yeah. Well, no, I couldn't call it Cinco de Mayo mead. I
Because
could
you
call
can't
it
put
Cinco
one
de
of those in
Mayo.
it either, right?
Right, exactly. They got me on. I wanted to call it mead tropical mead. I couldn't call it that.
But
and
you
I think
can't
it's
put
kind
a
of
tropical in a
wrong
mead?
thinking.
I hate you.
Correct. So I just
Yeah.
renamed it to tropical, and that was fine. And it says mead below it. But whatever.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Rules.
Thank you, TTB, who has the most
Yeah.
interesting and strange rules ever.
And arbitrary.
Yeah, well,
How about a nacho mead? I'd like to see a nacho mead.
I think the taco mead probably would qualify as a nacho mead. I mean,
If you put tomato in it, maybe.
I'm never doing another tomato mead again.
Oh,
Never
really?
doing
You
a
need to
tomato
talk
mead.
to Jon Oppegaard. He's done a couple of tomato meads, and they were amazing.
What's that?
You need to talk to John Talkington.
Talkington.
Oh yeah,
Did
no,
I
his
say
tomato
Oppegaard
meads
the
are
first
great.
time? Sorry.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Too many
It's
Johns.
like, wait,
and
that's
y'all...
me, and I
Not ask
right,
you.
it
No,
is
you
kinda
no.
confusing.
John Talkington has done a couple of tomato meads, and I got to try one of them at some point. I can't remember where or when, but I remember thinking, "Holy cow!" I had no idea. It was really good.
Oh yeah, I had one of his too. I forget the name of it, but it was a green tomato one.
Yeah,
it was delicious.
that's a good one.
It didn't really remind me of tomatoes all that much. The one that I made, this was quite a while ago, just like a 5-gallon homebrew kind of sized batch. I stuffed the thing full of big juicy red tomatoes, and the end product tasted like Heinz ketchup with alcohol in it. And I'll get PTSD if I drink anything with tomatoes in it again, I think. it was not good.
Oh my Lord.
That's not good.
Yeah,
well,
do
green
that.
tomatoes.
Yeah, don't do that.
Green tomatoes are like totally different, and it's interesting because growing up, I remember my mom talking about green tomato pies, and of course, being a kid, I made the face and was like, "Ew, yucky," and she's like, "No, it tastes like apple pie."
And having had green tomatoes and not being at all a fan of red ones, I agree.
Yeah, they're totally different. And and mostly when I eat green tomatoes, they're fried green tomatoes, but because I am in the South, so
I pickled them.
Yeah,
I pickled them last year when I had too many in there. They're actually really good on a hamburger.
Yeah, they're good.
Yes,
way better than the yucky red ones. Ugh.
Yeah, but so might be interesting to maybe toss a few green tomatoes in there, and I don't know.
Tomatillos,
maybe someday.
Start to get creative, anyway. So
I'll leave that one up to you guys.
Somebody will have to test it out and then let you know. So when you were doing this, when you were still a home mead maker before you opened up the meadery, you had said earlier, the first couple batches, which is true for almost everybody, were terrible, and because you didn't have the information. What did you end up finding out that got you to a good mead? What techniques and tools did you come across?
My first meads were like a lot of people, the Joe's Ancient Orange Mead, full on bred yeast, whole oranges, no temperature control and everything. So I mean, it was kind of a combination of things. Like a lot of people on the internet, I kind of misunderstood the purpose of the raisins in that recipe, so no nutrients went in there. I was using a yeast that wasn't really ideal for mead. I was fermenting it out in my detached garage in the middle of summer, so it's probably 110 degrees in there. It ended up being real dry, real bitter from the orange pith. It was just kind of a unbalanced, fusily mess. So, I just kind of kept at it, and I made so many batches that first 6 months, as the temperature started to cool down and the quality started improving without really me changing anything. That kind of clicked a switch in my brain that, hey, the temperature just needs to come down a little bit. I started experimenting with different yeasts. I found that some I really liked and some I didn't. It was kind of, the first few batches, everything was just wrong with them because I had no idea what I was doing and just kind of blindly following some terrible instructions I had found on the internet. And it really wasn't a whole lot better back then. I think Got Mead was probably the only forum, and unless you knew what you were looking for, it could be easy to...
It could be dangerous, yeah.
Right. I mean,
there's plenty of people in there saying, do it this way. Watch that YouTube guy who knows diddly squat.
Yeah.
Right. It's gotten so much better recently, though. I mean, it's, the quality of homebrew mead in general has just upped a millionfold. I mean, I remember everybody that I met who made mead all those years ago, at best, they were drinkable. It was really rare that anybody would show up with a homebrew mead that was really fantastic. Where these days, I've had so many homebrew meads that I think are some of the best meads in the whole world, and it's just some guy making it in a bucket in his garage.
Mm-hmm.
So it really has come. The homebrew scene has come a long way. Same with the commercial scene as well. I mean, it's so easy to find good meat these days.
back when I first started judging meads, which is, basically how I kind of figure what's going on industry wide, because I'm getting a cross section there in theory, because
Totally.
I don't know whose mead I'm drinking, but in theory I'm getting mead from all over.
Mm.
But there was probably, it was probably like you were saying, about 50-50 crap versus drinkable. And that was back in when I first started learning to judge. I was sitting with Ken Schramm, but I got to taste, because I was sitting with Ken Schramm. I got to taste a lot of stuff I might not have otherwise. But
Nice.
yeah, hanging around him has its benefits. But I've noticed in the intervening years, and it's been, I don't know, 17, 18 years now that I've been doing this, and that I've been getting to taste other people's mead widely, and the level of quality has gone up exponentially. This year at the Mazer Cup judging, I kept hearing stories about this or that 40, 45 mead, out of a total of 50. For those of you who haven't entered competitions, a total of 50 points you can get in a home mead competition. So these are scoring 40 and 45, and they're not even going on to the second round because there are that many good meads in the flight.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's how it should be.
What's that?
That's how it should be. I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very competitive, and it's because people are really ramping up their skill sets, and I love it. I mean, there's so much. I'm looking at how much information there is out there now, and
There's no excuse for making bad meat at this point,
No.
unless you're, a bad example like me.
well, somebody's got to do what I say, not what I do, right?
Yeah. Learn from me. Don't do what I do.
I'm kind of right there with you. I'm always forgetting to rack when I should rack and things like that, or I get busy and
Yep.
forget, or I go out of town and forget, and it's
Yep.
like, yeah.
Like that bomb, guess where? Still in the bucket.
Well,
2
I've
years
got
now.
the freezer mead that got racked and racked again, so it's off the lees and off the drop from all the fruit and everything. So
Mhm.
it's there and it's drop clear, but it's like, and I got to sit down and actually start messing with it. I'm gonna take it out. I'm gonna use it as a test, and I'm gonna do some acid tests with it and play
Yeah.
around with back sweetening and see what I can do, because it's there. I might as well.
Yeah, I got a couple of broken ones I need to do that with too.
Yeah. So
And
John, do you
same
test
speed.
drive every mead that you intro at the meadery? Do you test drive that at home or in a corner of the meadery in a small batch?
I try to. Sometimes I'm feeling real confident and I just kind of go for it. But it's a mess up of 200 gallons of mead is really expensive. So I do try to start small, kind of figure out what I want. Most of the meads I've released in the meadery, with only a few exceptions, are meads that I kind of figured out how I liked them before I even opened the meadery, and I'm just kind of slowly introducing them as I get the ingredients in enough qualities, or in enough quantity, I should say, at quality. So it just kind of depends. But I mean, there's a quince lemon mead that I currently have sitting in bottles in the back of my shop, just waiting for the TTB to approve it. The government shutdown kind of slowed that down by a few months.
Oh yeah.
It's one of my favorite meads I've ever made, and I had no idea what I was doing when I started it. A friend of mine just brought me 100 pounds of quince, which, if you're not familiar with it, it's a fruit that's kind of tangy and hard. You wouldn't normally eat it right off the tree. Usually, like, kind of boil it down into a jam or a pie. Really popular, I guess, back in the day in Europe, but not so much here anymore. But they're delicious, and I threw them into an 80-gallon batch, which is about average for me, and I fermented them with some snowberry honey that I had, and it came out so nice, but it just felt like it was missing something. And I had just gotten done releasing Honey Bomb when that one fermented, and Honey Bomb has a lot of lemon flavor, so that was kind of in my head. So I just threw in, I zested about 75 lemons, tossed them in there, crossed my fingers, and it came out so wonderfully. It's such a nice, drinkable, balanced mead. Everybody who's tried it loves it. I mean, the amount of times I've been told, you could just sell this anyways. Like, no, that'd be illegal. You gotta wait. I mean, it's just crazy. Everybody wants it. So I'm waiting for the government to pass it. But that's kind of one of the exceptions where I didn't really make a small batch. I probably should have, but I didn't have the freezer room to keep the quince. My freezer was fully packed, so I had to do something. So I hate letting food go to waste.
Yeah,
I hear ya.
Totally. And that must be the one somebody was going on and on about. You got to try the lemon. And
Yep, that's the one.
on Facebook, yeah, and I was like, lemon? You didn't have that last time I was out there, so I'll have to get me a bottle of that when it releases. So I like lemon. You know, and I've had several
Oh, you'll love this
lemonade and lemony meads and I've liked every one of them, so I'm looking forward to that. We had quince. There was a number of quince meads in both the home and the commercial competition at Maker
Really?
Cup
That's
this year.
awesome.
Yeah, and quince honey is a thing now. People are I'm seeing quince honey pop up. Carvin had some quince honey in his endless honey tasting table. Oh my God. It was friggin' amazing. You know, and I brought the Australian honeys and somebody else brought honeys from another country, and I mean there was just honey everywhere. It was amazing. But I was stunned because I've only ever had quince a few times. It doesn't grow where I grew up very well, or at least if it does, nobody's growing it. I grew up in cherry country in Northwest Michigan, so they're more focused on cherries and apples up there than anything else. But I was really impressed with. I love the flavor profile. So quince and lemon sounds divine.
Yeah, it was great. That's cool. That's cool to hear that. That's becoming a thing. I honestly had no idea. I thought I was the only one. That's great.
Yeah, no, it's I mean, not everybody knows what a quince is because it's not a real big fruit. I mean, it's out there, but it's not big.
No, it's like
it's not really
the size
edible.
of a baseball.
Well, yeah, you're right, Hamish. It's just you can't like eat it like a peach.
It's not,
Right.
not
You
like
gotta
you're going
cook
to go to
it.
the
You gotta
shop
cook it down.
and, buy a basket.
Right. Exactly.
Now, are quince popular down in Australia? I mean, as a flavoring agent or whatever?
Yeah, look, I know what they are. We tend to make a lot of quince paste to go with cheddar cheese. It works a real treat, which is like a quince jelly, I guess, but
Yeah,
we call it paste.
I like quince jelly.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I can't. I think only out of the, I don't know, couple hundred people told that I'm doing a quince thing in the meadery too. Maybe only one or two of them never even heard of them before. It's not real common in these parts anyway.
No, well, y'all are big into apples over there too, so
Right.
Quince,
apples and cherries everywhere around here.
Yeah, I remember my grandmother would occasionally make quince jelly, and it wasn't something she made often. More often, we had cherry or strawberry or grape or something like that. But when every once in a while, she'd get some quince from a friend or something like that, and she'd make quince jelly, and it's a delicate flavor. It's like it's like if peaches were like big and burly, quinces are like their nerdy little brother.
Yeah, there you go. The best way I heard them described was it was like a cross between a pear and a less offensive apricot.
Yeah,
is the flavor.
yeah, that's exactly.
Both kind of subtle,
So, if that's the case, then it might be interesting to do. Y'all get peaches out there, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so peaches and apricots go together really well in a mead. In fact,
that's not a surprise at all.
Yeah, and a lot of people say that if you want to get a really full-bodied peach mead, then add some apricots, and it basically sort of backstops and supports the peach and makes it a lot more. It makes it more bright. It brings out that flavor. So it's a complementary fruit. I'm wondering if you did quinces and peaches, what that might do.
Probably be delicious.
Yeah. So, peach season's in a couple of months, dude,
Yeah. Next time some quince shows up, maybe I'll give it a go. I'm getting ready to collect a bunch of peaches and nectarines for a mead I'm doing this fall anyways, so.
Ooh, nice. Peaches and nectarines.
Yeah.
That should be interesting.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I'm going to have to start paying more attention to your Vino Shipper page. I try to stay off Vino Shipper because I go there and I fill up my cart with like, this looks good. And, oh, yeah, I want one of those and 3 of these. And then I go look at it and it's like $450 in mead and $600 in shipping. And I'm like,
Right. Right. Yeah, the shipper makes it really easy to collect a bunch of different meads from different meaderies and put them in your cart. But since you're shipping them from so many locations, it hurts.
And that's actually a lot cheaper than what you'd pay if you were to go down to UPS and ship it from there. So yeah, it looks
Oh yeah,
nasty.
for
It's
sure.
it's still quite a bit cheaper, but yeah, it's ouchy. So yeah.
And
So
then just
Right.
think of how
And it is.
expensive it'd be if you had to drive there.
yeah, right. I
Right.
don't know.
Well,
I haven't
Vicky
been.
knows that because she drives all over the place for mead.
Yeah, see, I'm going to Pennsylvania in September, and Poland in November. So yeah, wherever the meat is, I shall
Nice.
go there eventually. I got to get back to the West Coast though. I want to spend. There's so many more. There was only like 5 meaderies just a couple of years ago. There was only like 5 or 6 of you guys in Washington. Now there's what, 19? I think at last count.
It Yeah. So if you count all of the wineries who are also doing mead, it's something like 29 or 30.
Holy
If you
crap!
count just those of us, yeah, I think it's the second most in the whole country if I remember right. And then if you count just the ones of us that specialize in mead, I know it's getting close to 20. I mean, there's so many popping up so quickly. I mean, half of them I've never even met because they all
I
popped up in
know.
the last year, and I haven't had a chance to go check them out. And there's at least that I'm aware of another half dozen that are, they got the licenses in the works, and they're going to be opening up probably in the next year.
Yeah.
So it's just about to explode over here.
Well, and it's going nuts. I mean, there's just in the AMMA, there's like 145 meaderies in planning, and that's only a fraction of what's actually out there.
Right.
So if you figure it's, I don't know, let's be generous and say it's 50%, that's 300 meaderies in process. And there's 500 in the country right
Yeah.
now. So conceivably, in the next 12 months, we could double the number of meaderies in this country. It's crazy.
Cool.
If it's anything like it is around here, I wouldn't be surprised one bit if we doubled it or more.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't be either. I mean, I can't keep up with them because I track them for Got Mead for the Got Mead list, and I've actually one of my chores in the next week or so is to go down my Facebook, Twitter, and browser save list with all the meaderies I've bookmarked or liked, that I haven't just pulled onto the actual central list yet, and get them all marked up. But yeah, I want to get back out to Washington because y'all got it so you can't hardly swing a cat without hitting a meadery. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, it's great.
It is. It's great. I love it.
I love it. People keep coming into my shop and they're like, "Man, aren't you worried that all these meaderies are coming up? All this competition." I'm like, "You don't understand. Like, there's demand for it, and most people have no idea what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And when they learn what it is, and that it doesn't taste like the mead their buddy made in their basement 20 years ago,
Uh-huh.
they're going to get addicted too. I mean, there's so much potential for growth here. I mean, we're going to run out of honey long before we run out of demand for mead
Oh
here.
yeah. Yeah, we're gonna, and that's, I think the next step is gonna be really encouraging beekeepers, whether they're also meaderies or mead makers, or if they're just, riding along on the wave and more beekeepers. It doesn't matter, but we need a lot more bees.
Oh yeah, I bet half of the beekeepers that I just kind of casually met out and about tell me that their honey is basically a waste product, and they don't even bother trying to sell it. I mean, it just goes as gift to like family, and then
Wow.
when it gets to be too much, they're just like throwing it away.
Oh my God. Really?
Like, right?
Did you
I
tell
know.
them we're
Are
out
you
here
kidding
paying
me?
like $4 a pound for this stuff?
Right. Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, $3-4 a pound for good honey is a good deal.
Yeah.
I mean, for compared to most of the market, and I mean, they're just throwing it away.
Oh my God. All right. So people in Washington who might hear this, there are honey providers there that are throwing it away. You need to go to Oppegaard Meadery, buy mead, then ask John who these people are.
Right.
Buy the mead first, though. Don't just go in there demanding where it is or you're just a jerk. Buy the mead first. Then you can ask.
It don't matter. Everybody who comes in my shop, I have no expectation that they actually buy anything. That was part of my business plan in the beginning, was to not charge for samples. And something like 99% of the people who come through my doors buy stuff anyways.
Yeah.
So you don't have to tell them to buy anything. They're just going to try it, and they're going to anyways. It doesn't matter.
Oh, Christian is asking he's going back to the quince thing. He says, do you ferment on the skins with the quince?
Yeah, I put them in their hole.
Oh.
I literally just stabbed them with a big knife to get through the skin to make it just a little easier.
You just
And
want to
that
play
was
with a big
it. That's
knife.
the only thing.
Well, who doesn't?
Yeah, right?
Yeah, of course. A knife
yes.
is a knife.
Yeah, it's a knife.
But yeah, you do need to pierce the fruit.
Right. It does help a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's literally the only thing I did to process them. Give them a quick rinse and stab them with a knife a couple of times, toss them into the fermenter, and let them go.
Cool. Yeah, that's the epitome of low work mead. Here, let me just chuck these into the fermenter here. Hang on a second, these are washed. Let me stab them and chuck them in the fermenter. Keep talking to me. I'm listening. I'm just checking.
Right. Just stabbing and chucking.
Stabbing and chucking. Yeah, you could have a whole party around that. Come stab quince. Kill them really dead. Throw them in the fermenter. It's a party. There'll be cheesecake.
Yeah, there you go. You might be onto something there.
Hey, feel free to steal. I'm just riffing on it a little bit. I've got this picture in my head of you like jabbing these things and then flinging them into into the fermenter.
It's exactly how you're picturing it. That's how I do it.
Oh, Jaden just jumped on and he says, "Stab, freeze, thaw, brew."
Let's see. No, freeze, thaw, stab. I guess it's not technically brewing because I'm not heating them up, but
Yeah.
ferment. So yeah.
There you go.
Freeze, thaw, stab, ferment.
All right. So there you go, Jaden. Right steps, wrong order. Well, that's really cool. What's the percentage of quinces to if it's something that you're willing to share? Percentage of the quince to the lemons in this?
Oh yeah. I'm pretty much an open book when it comes to this stuff, so I don't mind at all.
Okay, cool.
It ended up being right about 100 pounds in 75 gallons. So I don't know. Do the math. What is that? 1 1/3 per gallon. Like I said, normally I'd do a few different batches with different ratios to figure it out. But this is one of those weird cases where, for whatever reason, I just threw them all in there and let it go. So whatever ratio that works out to being, 100 pounds to 75 gallons of total liquid. That's how I did it.
That's pretty cool. What'd you end up using for? You said you used you mentioned the honey. What about the yeast? What kind of yeast did you decide to go with for that?
Oh, just 71B.
Okay.
That's kind of my tried and true favorite for a lot of my fruit mead. It does this really cool thing. One, it's so predictable for me because I've just used it so many times. I've always been a fan of that one. But it also does this kind of cool thing where it processes a lot of the acid out. So if you have a particularly acidic fruit, it'll bring down the acid level, and which if you treat it kind of like you're back sweetening a mead afterwards, it's kind of a great way to be able to have total control over how acidic it is. Because if you process most or all of the acidity away, you can add acid in afterwards to any amount you want. You're not kind of stuck with whatever the fruit gave you. I think that's why a lot of the more acidic fruit meads end up being really sweet. It's kind of the only way to balance out the acidity.
Yeah, they back sweeten
to
pick it up. Yeah.
Right, to kind of offset the acidity, where I don't really usually have to do that. My blackberry mead, I think, is the least out of any blackberry mead I've had.
Yeah.
There's hardly any acidity to it. It's real easy to balance. I don't have to do anything crazy with the sweetness to make it drinkable.
Yeah, I've had your blackberry.
So, 71B.
You're right.
Yeah.
That bottle's gone, sadly. I gotta buy more.
Yeah. I would tell you that I have a bunch going right now, because I do, and it's just about ready to go, which is true. But it's pretty much all called for already. So I'm gonna be lucky if I get any bottles out of that.
Yeah. I don't join. There are so many cool clubs. If I joined all the clubs I wanted to join, I wouldn't have an income at all. Yeah, John wouldn't have an income at all.
And you wouldn't have a liver either.
Yeah, I wouldn't have a liver, and I also wouldn't have a basement because it'd just be covered up in bottles of mead. So, but I can't. Literally, I look at it and I go, well, I could join this one or that one, or this other one over here. So I just don't join any of them because I can't decide. And,
Right.
I just gotta take my
Yeah, I'm not
chances.
technically a member. I'm the same way. I'm not technically a member of any mead clubs. I just whenever I look at my pocketbook and there's a couple extra bucks in there, I know exactly where that money's going.
Yeah. Go
I try to
hunting.
support as many small meaderies as I can.
Well, that's all of them, though. I mean, like 90% of them are small. So
Yep,
there's only about
exactly.
10%
And I try to.
that are not small, and really they are small if you compare them to any of the other craft alcoholic beverages businesses out there. So they're
Hmm.
just big
Oh yeah,
compared to us,
there's no AB InBev of the mead world. That's for sure.
No, no. The closest you're gonna get is Bee Nectar or Mike Fall's place, Rabbit's Foot, because
Rabbit foot, yeah.
they trade the title off every other year. So it's,
Right, right.
but yeah, it's we don't have any 800-pound gorillas in our room yet. Someday maybe.
Not, yeah, maybe.
Well, at the rate we're growing, it's gonna happen sooner or later, possibly sooner than we think. So 71B is your big heavy. What are your other ones that you use when 71B just won't do it?
Um, I kind of all over the place. I wouldn't say. I mean, that's probably the one I use the most. I've done D21 and a few traditionals lately. I'm playing with some Kavik yeast. I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but I think that's how you say it. I've been doing that lately, and I'm really looking forward to playing with this one some more. I just did a straight up traditional fermented at 100 degrees, and this is
Cool.
like the most mango-y, pineapple-y thing I've ever had. It's so awesome.
Nice. That sounds interesting. And there's
Yeah,
a
and
whole
it.
trend now with the high temperature ferments. I mean, you can get a great mead if you manage it properly at a high temp.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, Kavikis seem to just not care. Those things, they just love high temps. I mean, I know my buddy Eric up at a Sear meadery just north of Seattle. He was telling me he had a Kavikis ferment, at 100 degrees, and the power went out or something in the middle of winter, and it dropped down to like 30 degrees, and then it took a couple of days for it to warm back up, and it just didn't even slow down. It just that yeast
Man.
is just barrels through anything. It just doesn't care. And I intentionally, I heard about all of the crazy esters you get from it. So I intentionally sought out like the most bland clover honey I could find to ferment with it. And this thing has so much flavor. It's crazy. And I've even been told that 100 degrees is kind of on the low end of where I should be fermenting it. And there are
Wow.
guys out there doing it at like 120, 125 and getting crazy good results out of it.
That just defies, like everything that,
Right?
we're
Yeah.
all big on trying to keep it below like 70 degrees. And well, I mean, Carvin gave a talk on life above 90, fermenting at high temps. He's been playing with it too. I don't know what yeast he's using.
Mhm.
I didn't get to go to that talk, but I'll get to listen to the audio. That'll work. And so it's a thing. And I just the thought of taking and like wrapping my bucket in a heating pad to make it
It's
go
so weird,
hot
right?
on purpose is just like my whole body wants to go, ah.
Yep, that's why I started with three gallons to begin with, partially because it's hard to find a lot of Kavik yeast, in bulk, and it's a little pricey. So I started with a really small batch. One, because I just figured it was going to taste like crap and it was going to be a waste of resources, and two, the only little room that I have for heating up honey was the only thing that I could ferment it, but I could keep the temperature constant enough up at 100 degrees. But that thing after a couple of weeks fermented out, just it was at like 15% alcohol and so clean, and it
Wow.
smelled so good. So I just used that culture and just ramped it up to 25 gallons. My goal is, it kind of sucks because I can only make so much at a time in my little heat room, is to build up 50 gallons worth so I can drop it into a barrel and let it sit in the barrel for a little while. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it after that, but it'll be something good, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, and uh, I was just doing a quick search to put a link in the chat, and it's a Norwegian thing. And if I remember correctly, was it Norway you went to?
I did. I went to Norway last year. Yeah.
Yeah. And that, I mean, your family heritage has Norwegian in it, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, a few generations ago, or 5 of them or so,
Okay.
my family came from Oppegaard. So,
Okay. Hence
yeah,
the name.
Oppegaard, Norway. Oppegaard, Norway is, yeah, it's a little village over there. Kind of a little veteran community these days, but it used to be a big collection of villages. And yeah, Kvik yeast is a Norwegian farmhouse yeast. Apparently, they've been reusing cultures of it for like, I don't know, like hundreds of years or something crazy
That
like
is
that.
so
Is
cool.
the story that I was sold, and they're just now realizing its potential, and so they're just starting to cultivate it, and it's kind of cool because there's only a few strains available at the moment, but they each tell you like which region and family they came from, which is kind of cool too. It just adds to the magic of the whole thing.
That is really neat. I'm looking at this page where Omega Yeast has a page on the Kvik strains, and they're saying, people fermenting, they say the temperatures they were fermenting at were practically unbelievable, up to and sometimes exceeding 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So, and you
Yeah.
can just hear the awe in their tones. It's like, really? Because there are those of us,
Yeah.
I'm looking at this and going, I don't ferment in the summertime here because even though I have air in the house, it's, stupid hot outside and the air conditioning just can't keep up.
Well, clearly you just need some Kvik yeast.
Clearly, yeah. And it just cracks me up because it's coming from a place, fermenting hot in a place that doesn't get hot. I mean, they don't get hot temperatures in Norway ever.
Right.
Well, okay, occasionally, but very rare. It's not like
it does
here.
technically happen. When we were there last year, the whole time we were there, every day the highs were like in the mid 80s.
Wow.
And we kept making jokes to everybody we met about how nice it was, and we thought it was the land of the ice and snow. And everybody laughed, and they were like, "Yeah, you must have brought it with you because it's it was like record high temperatures.
Oh wow.
It's not normally like this."
Wow.
But
I haven't been to
but yeah.
Scandinavia yet. That's on the list, but I don't know. I don't know when I'll get there. Hopefully in 4 or 5 years. But that is so cool,
it's my favorite
though.
place in the whole world.
I mean,
yeah, I was sold on the story. I mean, even before I heard that you could ferment it at high temperature, I mean, just the story of the yeast and where it came from was so cool to me that I knew I had to give it a shot, and I'm just blown away by the results. I mean, even though I was told to expect this, you still don't quite believe it until you do it.
yeah.
I mean, the smell is just, when I open the fermenter, I mean, the whole room smells like pineapples and mangoes and, super fruity esters, all from the yeast. I mean, and even with it all cloudy and hazy and even kind of yeasty because it's still fermenting, it's amazing to drink. I mean, it's been tough to stay away from that thing.
Oh, I'll bet. That sounds so fascinating. And I'm thinking that the quince, going back to the quince again,
Yeah.
that the quince
want me
would
to put
work
quince
really
in
good
everything.
with that yeast. I mean, I'm remembering the flavor because it was the first time I'd had a quince mead this year at the Mazer. I mean, I've eaten quinces before in my life, but I'd never had a quince alcoholic beverage. So it was a very intriguing flavor, and it stuck with me. Which, I mean, anything new that I try when I go to a judging competition, it sticks with me for a while, and I start thinking about what would work with this. Ooh, what can I do with that? So my brain starts working on it. I can't help it. But Christian's asking, are the nutrient requirements high for Kvik?
Oh, I have no idea.
You know features?
So I put nutrients in there kind of the same way that I feed my regular traditionals.
Uh-huh.
And that was it. I don't know what it likes. I got to do some more testing. I got a Vinmetrica the other day too, so I can test, the YAN, YAN, in ferments, so I can play around specifically. But this is one of those things where I started it just not really expecting anything out of it. I just thought it'd be kind of neat, and now I'm finding I need to put a little more effort and research into this. But as far as their specific nutrient requirements for that yeast, I have no idea. I've been told stories from people that said that they just like drastically underpitched it, and it just didn't care. It seemed to like it better for some reason. I mean, the stories I've heard about this yeast are just that it kind of contradicts what we all know as fact for yeast. It just does whatever it wants, and you can't stop it.
That is really cool. So, are you doing Jaden is like losing it on the chat. The yeast scream, he says. Um, so are you doing like a traditional staggered nutrient additions? Are you doing Tasna? Is there I mean, what's your methods that you
I
like?
kind of I have my own method. I do stagger them, of course. I think that's really important. Um, I never looked at Tasna for the longest time. The latest update, when it was in beta mode or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
Sergio and all them were making a lot of noise on the internet. And curiosity finally got the better of me, and I checked it out. And um, I know the formula that they used on the website. From what I understand, it's changed a couple of times. So I don't know what that was like before, but with the current formulas that are available on the website, it's really close to how I do it. I mean, if I put in everything for an 80-gallon batch, which is like my average size batch, it was within a few grams of yeast. Um, and I generally like to do it on days 1, 2, and 4, which, if I remember right, that's pretty much what it says to do too. So I think I just kind of, by luck, my own system just kind of almost mirrors how it recommends to do it. So I just tell people when they ask me to just go on that website and just follow whatever it tells you, because it's obviously it works. Everybody's using it.
Very cool. Yeah, because I didn't see anything on the Omega page was where I ended up, Omega Yeast, and they for those of you that are wondering, omegayeast.com, you can get it. But and I'm actually sending them a thing to get one of their people to come on the show and talk about this stuff. Doesn't say anything about what sort of nutrient requirements it has, but it does say that. Oh, wait, I'm gonna send this and then I can go back to that page. It does say that they've got medium to high fluctuation, attenuation 75 to 85%, and it varies somewhat within there. And the temperature ranges start at like 70, 72, 75, go up to like 98 degrees Fahrenheit. So for those of you that are outside the state, so like between 20 and 38 degrees C, and the alcohol tolerance ranges quite a bit from like 11 to 16%, depending on the strains that they have there. But yeah,
I saw that. I think if I remember right, the Voss strain, which is the one that I'm playing with currently, I think it said the tolerance is like 13% or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, 12%. Yeah, and that's the one that goes 22 to 37 C, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So you're getting all of these tropical fruit notes coming off of it then?
Oh yeah.
That's
huge,
so cool.
Like tropical fruit like esters. I mean, you can taste them, you can smell them. I mean, it really smells like I'm opening a batch of mango mead when I crack the top of the fermenter.
I love mango mead.
Yeah, it's awesome.
That is awesome. That is so cool. Man, you could have so much fun with that. I mean, you're in a fruit basket there anyway up in Washington. So you've got a fairly wide variety of stuff you can play with to see what's going to work with that. And man, strawberries is another one that would just go really well on that.
Oh, yeah, definitely. The only thing limiting me is everything in my meadery is designed to bring the temperature down. I don't have a place where I can ferment a bunch of mead at 100 degrees. I mean, it was a pain in the ass to get my little 25-gallon fermenter into my little my redneck honey warming room that I built.
Oh, okay.
That's what's slowing me down. As soon as I decide to build another fermenting room or something, then I'm gonna go crazy with it.
Yeah, or wrap it in a heating blanket. They make those big barrel heating blankets for warming up barrels of honey. You could wrap one of those around your tank. How big a tank are you using?
Yeah, there we go. Everywhere from 50 gallons to 200. So okay. I mean, I could figure something out.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Hey, I've successfully used a hot blanket off a double bed before on a large barrel. Works treat.
Mm.
There you go.
Huh.
Yeah, guess I'll just have to experiment.
Yeah, I know. I saw when I was at Shram's Mead, he had these way cool. They were giant heating. They're basically giant heating pads, and they had Velcro or fasteners or something on them, and you just wrapped them around a 55-gallon drum of honey, and turned it on.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So.
And then you wait a couple of weeks, and it turns to liquid.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Then you wait a while.
It's not even that long. It's remarkable how quick it is, considering how much heat it doesn't appear to put out. The wrapping up of the vat in the electric blanket seems to just liquefy it in hours, not days.
Yeah, he's right.
Interesting.
Ken said it didn't take that long. I think it's kind of like you know how sometimes it's almost like it's catching. You know, like one molecule of honey will melt, and then the rest of them are like, "That looks like a good idea," and they all do it too. You know,
Sure.
So it just sort of spreads once it gets going. I think it spreads a lot more rapidly.
That's fair. The only time I've ever had like first-hand experience with those, one of my favorite honey people in Washington, all a buzz, when she pulls the barrels that it crystallized and they put their blanket on there, she said that it takes like a week and a half. She likes to do it as slow as possible just to make sure that none of the honey on the edges burn. But I imagine if you were careful about it and you kept on top of it, I'm sure you could do it faster.
Yeah,
But,
yeah. Well, I think the blankets that Ken was using were specifically made for basically they were purpose built, and so they were temperature controllable.
Sweet.
Yeah, so I don't know if they were variable or if you could set them to be like on a sliding scale, so they gradually increase to, and melt the outsides first, and then once it got away from the walls, then you wouldn't have to worry about it burning so much. But I didn't really delve into the
stirred it or something.
Yeah, I didn't really delve into the technology of warming blankets. I just thought, whoa, that's really cool.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean,
It
but
works.
it's out
Cool.
there though.
Where's the meat at?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, so where's the heart of darkness? Yeah, but yeah.
Right.
What are you making, Ken? But yeah, it was really cool because I didn't realize, because I get to thinking how hard it is for me when I got a 5-gallon pail and they're always caramelized, always. So I have to make sure I have a really sturdy metal spoon. Then I have to sanitize that, and then I have to use that to carve the honey out to get it so I can get the amount of honey I'm looking for, and then I have to soften that up because there's no putting the 5-gallon pail in the sink. It's just not going to do anything, So
Right.
yeah.
Right. But that's the best though, because if you want to eat spoonfuls of honey, like it's just so easy to eat it when it's all like hardened.
Yeah.
Get a big scoop of it, and then for me personally, I don't have to worry about it getting in my beard, like, because it always drips off the spoon in the beard, and it's so hard to clean out. So like crystallized honey is like my favorite snack in the whole world because it's just so clean. I don't have to take a shower right afterwards. It's awesome.
Actually, I use a great big soup ladle, a stainless steel soup ladle for crystallized honey, and that seems to work pretty well. I haven't popped the rivets on it yet, or popped the welds on it yet.
Yeah, that's what I had.
I've bent mine a number of times.
Yeah, I was just saying, mine's been bent back and forth.
Yep.
I'm surprised metal fatigue hasn't taken it out yet because I'm like always going shit and bending it back.
I'm surprised mine hasn't. My mom got me some top of the line stainless steel ones way back when we got the house, and one of those is on one of those hangs on the cupboard for soup duty, and the other one's downstairs for mead duty.
Yeah, I'm always
There you
stealing
go.
this stuff out the kitchen. I get in trouble. It's like, dude, where's the soup?
Oh, you know what we need? A stainless ice cream scoop, like the big, thick, heavy ones for making ice cream.
But bigger.
Only
That's what we should do.
Yeah, but it needs to have a
To make
scoop
that.
on the end that's like 3 or 4 inches in diameter.
okay. I'll start trying to make that.
Yeah, I mean it needs to
Work
have
in a metal
a
shop.
really good, and not like a ladle, because the sides are too steep on a ladle and you got to scrape the honey out of there. But if it had like a gentle slope and was like 3 or 4 inches in diameter and a really strong, thick handle that would have bend when you dig it into the honey.
I'll see what
You
I
want a
can
honey
do.
spade?
Honey spade, yeah, basically, but with
Yeah.
raised edges so you can get up a quantity, and ideally this would pull up 3, 4, I'm trying to think in metric. I'm trying to teach myself to think in metric. All right, so 4 liters is approximately in a gallon. So say like a quarter liter per scoop.
That'd be
How many
about.
is that how many is that in American?
Yeah, it'd be
That's
about
a cup.
So you got about 4 cups in a liter.
about 2 cups a scoop. Yeah, you just have a good size.
Oh yeah,
250.
that's
You want a half
that's
liters.
perfect.
You want like a coffee can, so that's
Yeah.
about a liter, something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't have to be a liter, but like if it was a quarter liter, then you'd only have to use like, let's see, 4, 8, 12, 16 scoops to get a gallon, or
Back into Imperial.
Yeah, I know. I do whatever, quadriliter, whatever it is, 4 liters of honey. But approximately that. So if you're making a 5-gallon batch, it tends to hover in that general vicinity, give or take, depending on what you're trying to end up with. But yeah, that's really interesting. Okay, so back to Kavik for a second. I'm like really intrigued now. I'm gonna see if I'm gonna get some of this. Does this keep going until it goes dry and then you have to stabilize and back sweeten, or are you finding that it ends up with residual sweetness all by itself?
Well, I'm probably the worst person to ask. I'm literally making still the very first batch. I took a 3-gallon batch, fermented it to 15%, and it still had a little bit of sugar left in it, but it wasn't quite stopped yet that I could tell. And then I just used that. I just basically dumped that into 25 gallons and let it go. So I haven't really played with it enough to get consistent enough like results to be able to really answer that question. But I ferment dry and back sweeten pretty much everything that I do. So if I found that normally that yeast wants to quit, at 11, 12% or whatever it's rated for, I forget, then that's probably what I would plan for, and not try to overshoot it every time. But so far, the only time I fermented it past 10%, it hit up to 15, no problem. So
Okay.
I don't know.
So it just kept going then.
Yeah, it wasn't stopping. I mean, there was still another, I think like percent and a half left worth of sugar, residual sugar there that it still wanted to ferment. I just didn't give it a chance to because I saw the potential and wanted to scale up. So
yeah,
I got to do a lot more experiments with it before I can say confidently what it will or won't do.
So did you find the Kavik here, or did you smuggle some back from Norway?
No, I didn't hear about it until after I got back from Norway, actually.
Oh, really?
I forget who told me about it first. It was probably Eric who told me about it first over at here. I think he might have been, or maybe I came across it on the internet, and then he told me about his batch that he had going. I forget. But yeah, no, I just found it on, I ended up ordering it from More Beer. It's not More Wine. They have a beer site. They didn't have any on the wine site.
Yeah, they probably
just
would.
on the beer site. Because that's what people are using it for right now. But I just ordered a few packs of it from there, and I'm getting ready to realize that I need to order a bunch more and start playing around with it.
Yeah, that's really, it's fascinating, the ideas and the idea of being able to get ferment at high temperatures and get an amazing mead. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean that not being able to ferment, over 70, 80 degrees keeps a lot of people from making mead. So I imagine once that stuff is readily available everywhere, it'll fly off the shelves. And everybody who lives in the warmer climates, I mean, plenty of people I know only ferment in the winter.
Yeah,
it's
I
too much of
don't.
a pain in the ass to keep the temps down. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had too many meads go sideways because we had a sudden temperature spike and I didn't have the air turned on yet.
Yep, exactly.
And it starts out 45 in the morning when you get up, and it's 90 by the end of the day, and I didn't turn the air on.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, it's frustrating. So yeah, I usually stop making meads by around April or May, and then wait until like November. Yeah. That's fascinating. What else did you learn about mead when you went? I mean, you went to Norway, and I remember watching the pictures that you were posting when you were over there. My friends go to some of the coolest places, and it looked like there was. I mean, you don't, and this has always stymied me. You don't hear about meaderies, so professional mead makers in the Scandinavian countries that much. There's just a few that I'm aware of.
They're super rare. I mean,
yeah.
Right. In Norway, I believe there's one brewery that occasionally releases a mead, and then there's one meadery, Meadery. They're awesome. We stopped and said hi to them, and they make some damn good mead. But what's funny is they have to import their honey from out of the country because there's it's just a little too cold in most of Norway for there really to be honeybees. So you just can't find enough honey to really run a commercial meadery there. And then they have such crazy alcohol laws there. It is really, really hard to get a meadery up and going. So
I've heard that.
You just don't see it there. We found a little bit of their mead in a couple tourist shops, but it was just a couple here and there, and it was always like the bartender would be like, "Well, I'm not sure. There might be some around here somewhere," and she would dig around for a few minutes and then pop up with a bottle and get all excited. So I mean, it's around, but it's hard to find. And then I know in Iceland, from what I understand, there's one brewery that makes a mead like once a year, and they sell out like the day they release all. They do 3 that I'm aware of, and they sell out like the same day, and then they don't do it again for another year.
Yeah,
But yeah,
and the brewery itself
real rare there.
it's real small. I mean, I've had a bunch of friends in that are in the in the mead making world that went up there, and they're like, "Where's the mead?" It's like, yeah, well, the Vikings used to drink a lot of mead.
Right. There's a lot of people that argue that the Vikings, didn't regularly drink mead, that it just wasn't warm enough. But the climate was definitely a lot warmer 1,000 years ago than it is now. So that would make, a little bit more honey. And then they were also pretty good about, very politely asking their neighbors for supplies. So they probably brought a lot. They probably brought a lot of honey back with them.
Yeah.
And it's so prevalent in their stories and myths that, we know they knew about them.
Yeah.
We just don't know to what extent mead was a thing back then.
Well, and I would, based on I've done a lot of reading in a lot of the ancient texts just because I've always been fascinated with that stuff. I was one of those people that read books on Greek myths as a kid when the other kids were reading, like, mystery books, kids mystery books or something like that. I was
lame, boring stuff.
Yeah, lame, boring stuff. Yeah, exactly. So, so I was reading this stuff and learning about that. And over the years, I've kind of come to, and this is like a totally unsupported by any kind of documentation whatsoever conclusion. So those of you historians out there, if you're going to rag on me, bugger off. I'm just I'm making a supposition here. Is that they had mead, but the way they mention it is the same way that the Rig Veda mentions soma, that a lot of the other historical / religious / legendary texts mention like the drink, like
Right.
the special thing. It wasn't, I mean, like
it was this magic thing
right.
that you heard of, and that the gods drank.
The gods drink this stuff, yeah, ambrosia,
right,
like that. And
sure.
I mean, if you think about it, the stories you read, Thor drinking the mead so that he could win the wrestling contest with the giants, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think that's the same story. And yeah, he was drinking from the horn that was magically attached to the ocean, and with every big drink, the ocean would swell, and that's why we have waves. I forget the whole story, but yeah, something like that.
So yeah, I mean, my supposition, just based on the readings I've done, is that the drinks they mention are not the kind of things that people had every single day. It wasn't like the regular thing. Like the British, they're English. Back in the day, they had beer with pretty much every meal. Well, nobody said, and we had beer for breakfast, because of course you had beer for breakfast. Why would you mention it? So, but when they have this,
it wasn't noteworthy.
Right, yeah, but when they say we had Queen Elizabeth's special methylene, well, that was because it was Queen Elizabeth's and it was the special methylene, not because it was something people made all the time.
Right.
So that's my completely unsupported and unresearched, just.
I think personally, you're probably. I think, it was one of those very special occasion, or, something that the rich and powerful drank. But most of us grunts living regular farmer lives probably didn't have a whole lot of experience with outside of the stories that the travelers would tell.
Yeah.
That's my guess.
Yeah, travelers wouldn't go to the next village and go, so the women in their bog dresses were drinking blah, 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 and cooking blah, blah, blah. No, They were like, the king, he was doing this. That's what they're saying.
Right.
Because nobody cares what the peasants are up to.
Right. I'm sure that was the case. But who knows? We probably never really will. But,
oh, yeah.
But that makes the most sense. That makes the most sense to me.
Yeah, it's fun to guess.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, you're into the Viking culture / history. I saw I was digging through your Facebook pictures. So not at all stalkerish or
great.
anything. I was just looking for a fun picture of you that I could add to the post. But one of the things I saw is that it looked like it was a Viking themed gathering.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's
I
pretty.
do a ton of medieval events for fun and
Yeah.
for business technically. Viking stuff being one of them. It's usually not terribly historically accurate. It's just kind of a
Ren fairish. It's fun.
it's
and
a
there's beer.
kegger. It's a kegger in which we all dress up
In
like
costume, yeah.
Vikings. In costume, yeah. Some of us try to make it as historically accurate as possible because there's a little bit of evidence for what kind of clothes they wore. I mean, the Vikings are
They
pretty
dig them out of
well
bogs
known
all the
throughout Europe
time.
for their clothes.
Yeah.
Right.
That's why they're
And
called
I mean,
bog
that's,
people
you know,
wearing
some of us
horns
do
on their
that.
helmets.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
yeah. There's
Well,
those
horns
people.
on their helmets is real.
Okay.
That's a real thing. Vikings totally had horns on their helmets, and I love to argue with people about this. It's my favorite thing in the whole world to argue about. The important thing to note is that they really probably didn't wear them into battle, to be all fearsome, because it just doesn't make any sense at all.
Oh, it's a total
but there's
liability
a
if you got
number of
someone swinging a sword or an axe at your head.
Well, and something to
Exactly,
grab
and
onto.
right,
Yeah.
right. You don't want handles. You don't want handles on your helmet. That's a terrible idea.
That's a terrible
Yes.
idea, yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. But there's a fair amount of evidence in their artwork that they've found that show gods and various mystical beings with horns and antlers on their heads, and we know that they would do ceremonies, rituals, whatever, where they would tell stories and imitate their gods. So to say that they never put horns on their helmets when we know people all over Europe during that time did put horns on their helmets for ceremony or ritual purposes is a little silly. It's really, really very likely that they did. And there's even artwork to support it. I mean, and on the Augsburg ship, there's a tapestry that they found that clearly shows a guy with horns on his head. And there's some pendants and some other artwork that they found throughout Viking era Scandinavia that show horns on gods' heads. So it's not a totally made up thing. But the part that everybody gets hung up on is that they never wore them in battle. But that's not the only thing the Vikings did. A lot of times they just drank and screwed around and told stories around a fire.
They were just regular people. There's just that
right.
their extra job, and not even their real job, because their real job was as farmers. I mean, a lot of people don't realize that they were okay. Thank you, Jaden. I don't read Danish. He posted one of the ubiquitous Viking cartoons, and it's in another language, and at one point I had that translated. But yeah, it's just really interesting because people don't realize they actually had a very rich at home culture. And it was only some of the people that went a Viking and out to bring home whatever they were going to bring home, or to colonize, because they were big on spreading out and colonizing. So, I mean, my husband's...
And I mean, and even then... Oh, go ahead.
And I was just going to say, my husband's descended. You can look at him, red-headed, tall, burly guy. It's like, this is not somebody... His family's from England, but these were not English people that produced this.
I read a cool thing that a lot of scientists that are doing all these DNA tests recently have theorized that the red-haired gene comes from the Vikings, because I guess with everybody doing DNA tests, they can kind of pinpoint when the red-headed mutation popped up in various parts of Europe.
That's
and
cool.
Apparently it reads like a roadmap of when the Vikings showed up there.
Cool.
So how ginger happened and how they spread.
Right. And nobody really ever put two and two together for a while, because it was always, everybody knew that the Vikings mostly had blonde hair, but now we know that they dyed their hair with lye, partially to keep the bugs out and partially because it looked really cool. So, they didn't necessarily have blonde hair. It was just bleached from the stuff that they were putting in their hair to look cool. Yeah. So there probably wasn't nearly as many blondes. Probably a bunch of redheads.
If they'd learned that they could mash berries into their hair after they dyed it, after they bleached it out, then that they could have wild colored hair, they probably would have done that, and we'd have purple-haired Vikings.
Right. I mean, maybe that was a thing.
Totally
Can you imagine? Dude, look what the elderberries did.
Right. I mean, they did have some pretty brightly colored clothing. From what I understand, during the Viking era, their clothes were pretty heavily sought after throughout Europe because they were really heavy duty and they were meant to withstand the elements, but that just meant for everybody else they held up really well, and they came in some interesting colors that you didn't find very often throughout Europe. So if they liked brightly colored clothing, somebody probably dyed their bleach hair and ran around with bright purple hair or something.
There had to be somebody that did it. That would be so cool if they could find like a tapestry that depicted that person. That would be
like some purple-haired guy, probably a relative of mine.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I just say you've done a good job of cultivating a pretty epic Viking beard. I've seen quite a few people going, I can't even begin to outbeard Jon.
Yeah, that's a whole story in itself. When I quit my job, I decided I'm going to grow it out to try to look a little more Viking. And since my entire adult life, I'd had a job that required me to shave every day. I didn't really know I could grow a beard. So it just kind of like exploded out of nowhere.
Wow.
And now it's kind of become like the mascot of the meadery. So now like if I cut it or do anything, like people are going to be so mad at me for it.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, my husband only shaves his for weddings and funerals, and aside from that, he goes Viking too.
Yeah. You have to just like have a beard outline superimposed on your logo or something.
Yeah, maybe. I'm getting real close to wanting to cut it down though. I mean, I'm getting into this medieval combat thing and trying to do the strap on the inside of my helmet. Rips out like half of my neck hair on one side every time I do it.
Ow. Yeah.
And so like there's a decent chance it gets trimmed down in the near future. So I don't think I'm gonna make it a part of my logo quite yet.
You can still have the full beard without the whole neck thing going on too.
Yeah.
You can camouflage it.
You have to say
it wouldn't be quite as magnificent though if I cut down part of the bottom part. That's kind of what makes it so great. Is it's just big and ridiculous.
It's just bursting out all over the place. Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
Actually, when my husband,
it's a very exuberant beard.
my husband's helmet actually has some grill holes in the face vent, and his beard sticks out when it's long enough. You just get like little beard escapees.
So if you're doing medieval keggers and stuff like that, i.e., otherwise known as living history and/or Renaissance Festival, historical reenactment. Yeah, I do the same. I do living history stuff too. My period's more. I do Renaissance and I do American Independence. So and so those are the two, and Civil War, but that's a different thing entirely because I get to shoot big guns. But
cannons.
Yeah, and cannons, yes, with real cannonballs, yes. It's so cool. But somebody mentioned to me in the various chitter chatter that was going on around the postings that you were coming on the show that you're going into Ren Fair season. And
I am.
You provide the mead at your local Ren Fair. Which Ren Fair is this, pray tell?
I do. So I believe it's the biggest one in the Pacific Northwest, if I remember right. But in Bonnie Lake every year in August is the Washington Midsummer Renaissance Fair, and it is huge and amazing and so much fun. I mean, they have technically 3 different bars, and one of them is just a straight up mead hall. They do so much music and entertainment and jousting and sword fighting and all of the usual Renaissance Fair stuff, but just times 10. It's so great. And they let you camp on site too, which is great.
Oh, that is cool.
Hang out there all day. Right.
Yeah, not a lot of Ren Fairs.
To your camp spot.
Yeah. Well, is that just participants and vendors, or is it everybody?
No, it's everybody. Everybody.
Cool.
They have a whole. They reserve a whole section of the fields just for camping, and it's great because when they shut down the Renaissance Fair, they do a few hours of just one of the bars. The big bar stays open, and there's just music all night and shows. At one point,
cool.
the knights that do all the jousting and everything will usually put on a drag show. And that's seeing a bunch of big burly guys in dresses dancing and lip syncing to various pop songs is amazing. It's so much fun. And there's a meat pie guy that hangs out in the bar all night and just sells meat pies, and they're delicious.
God.
It's so much fun. And so the party doesn't really stop in the Renaissance Fair until I think it's 10 or 11 or something like that. And then, and then you make your way out to camp, and everybody's so nice out there, and it's just like a big gathering with a bunch of nerds, and it's so much fun.
That does sound like fun. And this is in the
But yeah,
spring, so when does it start?
August.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's in August.
All right.
That's the big one. I also supply the same outfit is running a pirate event in June, I think, and one in Oregon in July. One of them in
Nice.
June, one's July. I might be mixing those up, but they're all a blast. It's the same organization that runs all three of those. But I supplied so much mead to those that I'm starting. I've been working on that mead already for about a month now. The amount of mead that I bring to them is just insane. Last year it was more fun to say in tons how much mead it was than it was to tell everybody how many bottles, but it was like 4.5 tons of mead that they ended up using for the one big one. And then this year, I haven't actually done the math, but I think it's something like 5.5, 6 tons of mead. Like I think I'm gonna have to get a semi truck this time to deliver it.
Dang.
Yeah,
That is
they
so
really
cool.
like mead.
I gotta mark down when that is. I'd love to come out to that. And it just so happens that Southwest, which was having lots of issues when people were all trying to get out to Colorado, it just coincided with a whole bunch of crap hitting the fan for Southwest. Offered me a discount voucher because my flight got canceled. I lost a whole day of prep out the conference, blah blah blah. And I basically went to them and said, I'm not happy about this. And they're like, have a voucher. We're really sorry. We'll try not to let it happen again. And so they're way
Nice.
cool. Southwest is really good with customer service. I am very pleased with that, even though I wasn't pleased with the flight schedule. So I will be flying them again. And hey, they go to Washington. How convenient.
Hey, I'll save you a spot. I'll save you a spot for your tent then in August. And yeah, definitely come out for that. It's such a blast. I mean, it's out of all the Renaissance fairs I've been to, I think it's my favorite. I mean, it's always so enjoyable. There's always all of the volunteers and actors and the people that put it on they're all so friendly and nice. And I mean,
That sounds so
I have
cool.
a big stupid grin on my face the whole weekend. It's so
Oh
great.
yeah. Is it just a one weekend event?
It's the first 3 weekends of August. So each
cool.
weekend they do it, and
God.
each weekend they do like a different theme too, which is kind of cool. Like they do like I think there's a chivalry theme, a pirate theme, and like a fairy theme,
Jeez.
which is always fun and not really necessarily Renaissance, but whatever. It's all in fun anyway. So
Yeah, I mean,
it's cool.
this is their show. They can do it any way they want, you know. And
Right,
It's an
exactly.
excuse to dress up. It's an excuse to get dressed up in your fun clothes and go drink, and party and
Yeah.
play and eat good food and yeah. I mean, I like period authenticity when I'm doing living history, because if you're doing living history and you're wearing something with zips, I will hurt you. That's just not right. People are coming to see history, not Ren Fair. When I go to Ren Fair, that's different.
Right.
Completely different. I'm going to play.
Yeah. Like my fighting
Right.
gear, I've got lacrosse gloves that I've covered with metal.
Oh
Yes,
yeah,
I
same.
like
That's
my
exactly
fingers.
what I have. Right.
Cool. My husband had hockey gloves, but we found some where the thumbs move.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Well, a lot of
Yeah, mine are definitely lacrosse gloves. It works just fine.
that's like
my armor
SCA
is a weird
standard for
mix
fighting
of-
gear, man.
I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah.
That is so cool.
But whatever.
Yeah, I don't think I'll get out there
So much
this
fun.
year
So
because
much fun.
I've already said that I would be in Pennsylvania at the beginning of September for something else, so I'm slap up against the wall for travel crap. And July I'm in Michigan,
There you
so
go.
visiting family.
Penzic is out there.
I know.
I don't know when Penzic is, but
Yeah, it is, and I haven't been in forever. And every year, and my girlfriend Bree and I have gone together before, and every year we're like, we're gonna go. Shoot, we don't have the time. We can't get off of work. Things are going on. Got to be someplace else. There's always something, So
right.
yeah. So like last year, I was in Australia during Penzic, so
Well, that's a decent excuse.
Yeah, and the year before that, I was driving around the country. So it's just like I don't know. That's just hard. But yeah, at some point I want to get back to that. But no, that just sounds like a rollicky good time. And if I came out, I would want to come out for like 3 or 4 days so I could get around and visit a bunch of meaderies too, since there's so many now.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean,
And-
there's at least 4 off the top of my head that are within 45 minutes of that place.
That's cool. Are you
Yeah.
the meadery or a meadery at this event?
I'm the meadery. I supply
That's
all
so
of the mead
cool.
for it.
Nice.
Yeah, this will be my third year doing it for him.
That is a really nice coup, because it gets you in front of so many people.
Oh yeah, it does. I mean, it's been a huge part of my growth too. I mean, when they showed up, asking me, I'd only opened the shop like 3 months prior to that, or 2 months prior to that, or something like that. I mean, so I had just opened up, and when they mentioned that they were going to be looking for a few thousand bottles, that was kind of more than I was expecting to make that year. So it was kind of a big deal
So they're
for us.
pushing you.
Right, they're pushing us, and then it went so well that first year. They sold out of mead on out of the 6 days that they have the fair going, they sold out on like the third day, and as far as I know, they've never done that before. All the years that they've been running the Renaissance Fair. So we love to brag about that, and I've been doing it for them ever since. They're great. All the volunteers love us. A lot of them are regulars at the shop. They do a really great job of telling everybody. I mean, the fair gets custom labels with their artwork, and we name them after, Renaissance Fair related things. So the bottles are kind of special and unique to them, but
cool.
The volunteers do a killer job of telling everybody, where to get more. So I get tons of customers from it. They get tons of mead. It's just great all around.
Yeah, that's
awesome.
a win-win. All right, Christian. Yeah. Christian says I have to ask you about the quote-unquote customer service department.
Yeah.
There's a story here, I'm guessing.
Yeah, kind of. So, did I lose you? Still there?
No, we're still here.
All right, good. Cool. My phone made a weird noise. Probably Skype. We'll just blame them. So, The customer service department is like a 20-pound axe that's hanging on the wall of the meadery that's made completely from tractor parts. The handle is a big heavy chain all welded together, and then the blade is, I don't know what it's from, but it weighs like 3/4 of the weight of this thing is all in like the quote unquote blade. And then there's these huge like the things that would rake into the soil and till it up, the spikes on the end of whatever equipment does that, I don't know, are welded onto the end of this thing. So there's these huge spikes on the front of it, and then on the handle there's a bunch of spikes coming off of the chain. It's just this totally ridiculous axe that a guy made down in Vegas.
That's crazy.
Who's like a cosplayer, and he makes all kinds of crazy stuff. But I got that one. So that's the customer complaint department. And then there's another one that's smaller and matches it. That's really fun too. That's hanging on the wall. People realize pretty quick how much I like kind of silly, unique, gimmicky, either primitive or Viking or just out there, outlandish cosplay stuff. So my walls in the meadery are just covered in the most off the wall things, and pretty much every piece on the wall has a story.
That's really cool.
That's
I haven't seen the new place. The one I saw was when you were still in the first place, and it was your service area was a little tight.
Cramped. Yeah. Well,
I mean, we got a lot of people in there,
really
though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it worked technically. It did get pretty cramped pretty much all the time, but it worked. When we started, it took so long for the licensing process and to get approved. We just needed a place that we could, easily swing rent for possibly years before the licenses would show up. And we never really thought ways, in the beginning, it was just kind of a hobby, and it was for fun. And if a few people showed up in a day, we would have been ecstatic at that. So we moved into the new spot. It's still pretty small. It's a lot bigger than the old one. A much bigger production area, which is the main reason we moved into this spot. But the tasting room is only about 2.5 times the size of the old one, so it still gets pretty cramped in there sometimes. But the plan is to find a bigger retail, storefront location, somewhere a little more visible too. We're kind of hidden where we're at, and then just keep that as my production area.
Yeah, I've seen quite a few meaderies that are having their production area in this, light industrial areas, and then opening up some kind of storefront downtown or near town or something like that.
Right. Exactly. That's what I'm going to be shooting for. I'm hoping to get serious about looking for a spot by the end of the year,
Nice.
early next year. Yeah, that's hopefully the plan. We'll see how things go.
Oh, maybe I'll have it open if I'm able to get out there next year.
There we go.
Yeah.
Well, even so, the spot that I'm in currently is a lot bigger than the old one, and it's a lot cooler decorated too. I mean, there's everything from there's like a half dozen axes on the wall, and they all each have their own story and paintings, and reindeer furs and horns and art, and I mean, there's so much stuff. It's great. I love it.
So now you know to get, like the gear to decorate your place and theme it properly and everything, that trip to Norway is now tax write-off, right?
Oh yeah. Well, so I guess I'm gonna have to go back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I mean seriously,
Right.
you're it's research and decorating and getting. There was an Irish pub here, here in Raleigh, Rira, and it was owned by an Irish national. So this guy was, in fact Irish. He had emigrated here and naturalized, but he still had kin back in Ireland. So he'd go back to Ireland and collect all kind of cool doodads and whatchamacallits and frip frap and bring it back, and it'd hang on the walls in the bar. Tax write-off.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I kind of enjoy that so much of the stuff on the walls of my meadery, I didn't actually go get. There was stuff that people brought to me. I mean, it's gotten to the point where some of the stuff
That's
isn't
pretty
even
cool.
like they're not even from people I know. I mean, a good friend of mine showed up a few months back with like a cow jawbone that had been painted, and it has a red sun on it with a raven on it. And he just said, "Hey, I know you know this Mead guy. I think he'd like this. Will you give this to him?" And she just showed up with it.
Wow.
I've got drawings of. There's a drawing of a dragon that I really really love. That's like a friend of a friend of a friend. They just showed up with it, and they're like, "Hey, I figured you would dig this." I'm like, "Oh hell yeah, throw it up on the wall." So, I mean, there's, it's just everybody has brought stuff to add to it, so everybody feels so connected with the meadery. It's great. It kind of
That
adds
is
to
great.
the ambiance of the whole thing. Everybody feels a part of it. It's great.
That is really cool. I am just so thrilled. I mean, it's like you were like, well, just so I can cover my costs to make mead and have a place to do it, and if people buy enough for that, that'll be good. And then here you are, and it's taken off.
Yeah, it's kind of unreal. Well, I mean, you remember the very first time you came into the meadery, I don't think there was anything on the walls in the old spot.
Just the
And I
shields.
think the only thing I had was there was one shield, I think, and then there was a bar. There was a piece of wood sitting on a barrel, and that was my bar counter, and that was it. There was nothing else in the room.
And some stools, and there was some stools, and the rest of us just kind of
that's
crammed
right.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah. You had stools, and I think you just finished shield number 3.
Okay.
Yeah, because it was like this big. Look, here's
right.
the third shield. We were hanging it, and I was like, oh, cool.
I still remember the picture that you took. That was my profile picture for a minute, and every time I accidentally glance over, it always kind of makes me chuckle because it's just blank walls in the background and just a bare piece of wood sitting there. And I remember thinking how cool the meadery was back then, and the way that it's evolved and changed now. It's just funny. It's crazy. Never expected any of it.
Sometimes that's the best way for it to happen. It's organic,
That's fun.
Yeah, I guess so.
I mean, it's evolving and creating itself as it goes on, and that's kind of cool. It's not like you set out to say this is what it's going to look like. You're just like, cool, look what it looks like.
So that's what it's going to look like.
Yeah, it's
much.
doing it itself. That's really cool. So I can't wait to see it. That's going to be. I'm looking forward to it. I was thrilled when you moved to a new location because I knew that meant you were doing well. So
Yeah, definitely.
So what's
I have
coming
a
up?
pretty good idea that. Never mind. Carry on.
No. Go ahead, AJ. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, talking about making shields, my husband made a Viking-style round shield out of 16-gauge stainless.
Yes, that's awesome. Does he fight with it?
Yeah, he actually is strong enough to fight with it. I can barely lift the damn thing. But yeah, we call it the gong because it's really, really loud.
Yeah.
Oh,
16 gauge. God, that's heavy.
I can totally imagine. Well, that's what my armor's made out of, a 16-gauge plate. But
Yeah, but your whole body is carrying that, not just your arm.
Yeah. Well, I can see that ending up hanging on the meadery wall when I get mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you ever don't have a use for it and you want to hang it up somewhere where people will ooh and all over it, you know exactly where to find me.
Fair enough.
And to do that, you'll have to just take it to Washington, deliver it, man.
Right, totally.
There's 20 meters.
Well, yeah, you have to come with it.
I'm sure John can keep you occupied.
Oh God, I'm sure.
Mead everywhere there is.
And if we come at the right weekend, even Mark will be amused.
Yeah, and Washington's gorgeous. I mean, it's just stunning.
Yeah, y'all could come out for one of the other medieval events I do is called Ragnarok, where it's more participant. It's not a Renaissance fair. It's everybody is in garb.
More like SCA.
There's only a couple of vendors there. It's kind of like an SCA event, but it's run by the EMP, which is similar in some respects. But they do rattan fighting all day long, and then they end it with a tournament style battle for about an hour straight in a literal ring of fire.
That's cool.
Yeah, we do lifesteal, so I'm not sure about fighting with rattan, but
I've still got my basket hilt and rattan stick downstairs somewhere.
Well, that's all right. The international steel team is based out of Seattle too. We can go play with steel too. There's plenty of stuff to do in Washington.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is cool. So what's coming up for you on meads? You talked about the lemon quince. What else you got that you're working on?
There's not too much new stuff going on. The government shutdown kind of took me by surprise, and so everything that I had that was new and in the works got held up. I still have a recipe or a label that hasn't been approved that I've been waiting since December for. So I kind of shifted focus away from new things, and I'm kind of just redoing a lot of the old stuff and the regular stuff that I normally do, and trying to build up inventory on that because I've run out of stuff so quickly.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, currently there's the Dragon's Blood mead, which is a blackberry, blueberry, raspberry mead. I got a lot of that going. There is a blackberry mead, a blueberry mead, a plum mead, a couple of sizers that I do.
I like your sizer. That was good.
I am playing around with a blueberry French toast sort of thing. That's probably going to be a thing before long. Just blueberry, maple syrup, cinnamon, that kind of stuff. But that one's going to be a thing in the next few months, I'm sure. But it's mostly just the regular stuff. I got a lot of fun barrels. I don't know what I'm going to do with yet, but I had really good barrel luck for a minute there, and now I've got a pile of Woodford Reserve used bourbon barrels. I got a couple of spiced rum barrels from the Caribbean that I'm super excited about. A used tequila barrel from a distillery down in Mexico that I'm going to do something goofy with. Some rye whiskey barrels I want to play with. Just in a span of a couple of weeks, I just managed to come across a lot of really cool, interesting barrels and grab as many as I could.
That kind of sounds like the universe is going, John, dude, seriously, barrels.
Put stuff in barrels.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as soon as you said rum barrels, I'm thinking the creek gives off all these tropical esters. And
yeah. So I've got 2 rum barrels. One of them is going to be a piratey mead that I'm supplying to a pirate event later this summer. The other one, I haven't really decided what to do with it, and that's crossed my mind a couple of times to drop in a Kavik traditional into it and let it sit in there for a while and see what happens.
Yeah.
So there's a decent chance that's how that plays out.
Oh yeah, okay. If you do that and it comes out as good as I think it might, I want a bottle. Just set it aside for me. Tell me how much money I owe you. I will send you the money. Because I know that's never going to make it onto the store. That'll get snapped up by your club people. So
take her money, please.
Yeah, I'm just saying, take my money, please. Yeah, exactly. But that sounds really cool. So piratey mead, just exactly what goes into a piratey mead?
I'm just putting a traditional mead into a rum barrel. So when I had agreed to do this pirate event, the government shutdown was still full on in effect. So I'm doing 3 meads for them. 1 dragon's blood because everybody loves that. It's really
Right.
popular out of the shop. A traditional mead because there's just so many people that just want a straight up traditional. And then the third one, they kind of left up to me, and they said, you know what, you got any ideas to do anything piratey? Well, within the confines of the recipes I already had approved, I couldn't come up with any new spiced mead.
All right.
You know, I didn't know when the government was going to open back up. So what we decided was I found a Caribbean spiced rum barrel. And so since I can put a traditional in a used barrel, you know, under the confines of the recipes I already have approved, that's what we're doing. So the smell of the barrel is incredible. It smells so good. I'm really looking forward to the flavors. It's just going to add to it on its own. I don't think it's going to need anything else. I think it's just going to be just killer on its own.
Yeah, it sounds like it's going to be amazing. I mean, that's going to be, yeah. I'm a rum nut. That's my favorite. That's my favorite liquor. It's right up there with Scotch. So, you know, I love Caribbean rums, and I'm always looking for new and interesting ones. So that sounds extremely tasty. So yeah, if there's a bottle left of that, or if I can get in on the line with the bottle of the other one, let me know.
I'm sure we'll figure something out. No big deal.
Yeah, just you know, give me a heads up and say, and I need blah amount of money, please. You know.
Right.
So yeah,
definitely.
I like trying out new and interesting things. I mean, I've had some amazing just straight up melomels and stuff, but like everybody's doing melomels. I want to try something different. I want to branch out and get weird, you know, and try some oddball meads and different meads, and like the Kvik, you know, just totally caught my attention because it's different, it's odd, it brings in a whole different way of looking at things. So yeah.
Well, that's half the fun with mead, though, isn't it? I mean, the possibilities are basically endless. I mean, when you feel like you've had every kind of mead there is, suddenly you come across just some random mead on a shelf that just blows your mind because it's unlike anything you've ever had, and you realize it just opened up this whole new dimension. I mean, it's not nearly as restricting as a lot of other, you know, alcohol segments. You can there's literally it's endless. Any kind of fruit, vegetable, spice, you know, whatever you come across. I mean, I've heard of people making teriyaki meads and curry meads. And,
Bob did the seaweed mead.
Ridiculous.
I tried Bobby's seaweed mead was really good, and I got to try Tom Repa's mushroom mead, which was really interesting.
I've heard Tom's is amazing, and one of these days I'm going to bug him for a bottle. If you're listening, Tom, you know what my address is. But, here at Font in Eastern Washington, they do 2 mushroom meads, and I didn't even hear that they did a mushroom mead. I just happened to be at a farmer's market where I came across the one that they did. It's called a puffke. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but it's just like a session mushroom mead, and it is so bizarre how much, I think it's got like reishi mushrooms in it. I forget, but how much you can taste mushroom in it, but it's not gross.
But it's good. Amazing. Yeah. I was expecting it to be
so good,
dusty and mushroomy and, you know, like that. And it wasn't that. I mean, it was very demonstrably mushroom, but it was good. And yeah, I was just as surprised as you.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to expect, but I'm always willing to try it because I've been surprised any number of times by things I thought I'd hate and didn't, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah, but the other mushroom mead, they dropped off a bottle a couple of months ago, and I was just as impressed by that one. It was amazing. I don't even like mushrooms. I think they're gross, but their mushroom meads were fantastic. So that's on my list of things to play around with eventually when I run out of ideas.
Yeah, that'll be really interesting if you can get it to happen commercially. Nobody's done one commercially yet that I'm aware of.
Well, Hierophant does. Yeah.
Oh, except for Hierophant. That's right. I forgot. Because you're right. Michelle said something about that.
I think you can find them. Mm-hmm.
Well, somebody said something about Tom's, and Michelle's like, we make 2. So I was like, I did not know that. I buy my elderberry syrup from her. I buy my golden milk from her. I didn't even think to look for mushroom mead.
They make a bunch of awesome stuff, but I think the last time I saw on Vino Shipper, they had some of their mushroom mead on there. So if anybody wants to try it, hit them up on Vino Shipper and check it out. they're doing really great as well. It seems like all the Washington meaderies are doing really great. I mean, they're getting ready to move into a new location, and they're going to keep their old one open as a tasting room, I believe.
I saw that.
But
yeah.
I mean, they're growing like crazy too, which is so awesome.
Yeah, I gotta have them back on the show because they hadn't gotten a lot of their apothecary stuff going at the time either, and now they're doing just a whole bunch of really different things. So
Yeah, you should definitely get them on the show. They're such cool, interesting people too.
they really are. Yeah, I think I had them on the second year when they were just opening their doors. I mean, they were either in the process of opening or had just opened, but I haven't really been back to revisit with them. And didn't get to visit with them in person when I went through Washington because the jerk off guy who owned the camping thing gave away our spot and then wouldn't give us, and there was no place else to stay when we were going to stop and see
Ouch.
them. Yeah, it was 4th of July weekend, so of course, like every campground for miles around is booked
Yeah,
up.
there's nowhere else.
Yeah, well, we had a reservation, but this place was like somebody offered him more money. So basically, he took it away, and we got there, and he's like, "We don't know you." I was like, "You asshole." So yeah, that didn't work out so good. So we didn't get to visit them. That was one of my planned stops, but it didn't work out. But well, it's cool though. I'm thrilled. It sounds like things are going just amazing for you.
Definitely, I've got no complaints.
Cool. Well, I'm definitely gonna have to put that on my schedule to get out to then. Um, any upcoming releases or anything you want to give a shout out about? Let people know.
Not really.
Plums
like
in a
I said,
week.
most of the meads, Plum's gonna be back in stock real soon. Most of the meads that I have going will be back in stock in the near future. If any of the particular flavors that anybody sees on the website sound interesting and you see it pop up for sale, or I make a lot of noise on my Facebook page, on the Oppegaard Meadery Facebook page about when I release them, if you like them, grab them quick, because it's just become normal for me to sell out of each flavor within a couple of weeks of releasing them. Nothing ever stays in stock long, and I'm so picky about the ingredients. It's not like I can make a lot of them year round. So
Yeah, that's really
gotta
cool though
keep
that
on
you're
top. Yeah.
picky about your ingredients. Are you thinking about upsizing your batches, or is that something that you're holding off until you can secure the ingredient lines?
Yeah, I can't get enough. As it is, some of the flavors of honey that I like using, snowberry being the one I've been really attached to lately. Like I pretty
like
much
snowberry.
buy all of what's available. I mean, there's very little of it that ends up elsewhere from the beekeeper that I get it from. So it just depends on the ingredients. I try to source as much as I can locally. And that means that I've only got a small window of time each year to pick up the ingredients, so that makes it difficult. So and then not only that, but I mean it's a lot of work. Upscaling the size of the batch, it just compounds how much effort it takes. I put whole fruit into everything like a home brewer would, so all of that has to be dealt with at the end. It's a lot of cleaning. The 200-gallon batches that I do now, I honestly only do those as I'm getting into the event season to supply all of the fairs and events that I commit to doing. Outside of that, I really like to keep my batches at 80 gallons or less, just to make sure I have time to sleep.
Yeah, sleeping is good. You forget to add things to your mead when you don't sleep.
Right. Well, that's how I made Dragon's Blood.
Really?
Oh boy.
Yeah, that was a mistake. So I when I first started really getting going, and I had about, I don't know, maybe 15 or 20 different 50-gallon or bigger size batches going at the same time. The way that I make both my blueberry and blackberry meads, I put half the fruit into primary and half into secondary. And when I racked a blueberry mead into secondary, I should have put 75 pounds of blueberries in, but instead I put 75 pounds of blackberries because it was at the end of like an 18-hour day, and I kind of goofed. And by the time I opened up the first vessel to clean it out, and I realized that there was blueberries in there, not blackberries, and realized what I had done, I just decided, well, this is going to be a new flavor. I wonder what else I got laying around. And I had a few pounds had a few pounds of raspberries that didn't really have a home yet, so I threw them in there. And I'd made blueberry, blackberry, raspberry meads before plenty of times, but never quite this way with the blueberries in primary, blackberries and raspberries in secondary. And when it got done, I realized that I had, kind of struck gold by accident, and it was amazing. Decided to call it Dragon's Blood. Everybody kind of lovingly calls it Oops All Berries. Comes into the shop because they've all heard the story of how I accidentally put the wrong berries in there, and but it's taken off. And I mean, it's just that mead alone is probably responsible for a huge chunk of my growth because it's been so popular. But it all started because I was too tired and put the wrong berries into a fermenter.
But they say that sometimes backing into it is the best way to succeed.
Dumb luck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of my best meads have been dumb luck meads. Things I blended because
Right.
two that weren't where I needed them to be, or just accidentally mixed something with something else because I was almost out of something. I mean, just like, wow, that's really good. So yeah, that's really cool. I'm so glad that worked out. Would have sucked if it hadn't, man.
Right. Yeah.
Like, no,
And
we're not gonna
luckily,
have the blueberry mead, guys. I had to dump it down the sink. Sorry.
Right. Oh yeah, that's nothing ever gets dumped out. We always find a way. I mean, luckily, I guess I should knock on wood. I haven't had to dump out anything in the meadery yet. I've had nothing but good luck so far.
Awesome.
I would be knocking on wood like a lot in the next day or so.
I'm literally knocking on wood as I'm talking to you right now.
Yeah, because that's just tempting the fates, man, in a huge way.
Right.
That's right up there with saying "I love you" just before you go off to battle. Yeah, that's a really good way to die.
Or saying what could happen worse.
Oh yeah, what could possibly go wrong?
What's the worst that could happen?
What's the worst that could happen?
Never say that. Never
Yep.
say that.
It can't possibly get worse. It'll find a way.
Oh yeah, it will. Well, shoot, John, I'm glad I finally got you on the show. Took it long enough, but I'm glad we finally did.
Yeah, it's been a minute. I realized I finally ran out of excuses. So
Yeah, well, and you also,
I had no choice.
Finally figured out I was just gonna dog you forever until you gave it up.
Right. Well, I think I was lucky the last time you came to visit me in the meadery. It was so packed full of people that you couldn't, yank the axe off the wall and swing it at me and tell me to get on your show. So
Yeah, I really couldn't push you. You were kind of busy, and I hate to interrupt somebody when they're making money. It's not cool. So yeah,
Yep,
I just hung back and
so polite.
Yeah, I hung back and ate cheesecake and drank plum mead and just watched.
Right.
Have some cheesecake as a distraction.
Oh, it was very distracting too, I can tell you. But all right, well, cool. Well, we've kept you for over 2 hours. Thank you so much. And I will.
It was a pleasure.
No, thank you so much. It's just good
Thank you. It's been fun.
Yeah, it has been, and finding out what you've been up to and everything, because I see you online, but we don't really talk that much. So this has been fun.
Yeah, it's been great having you on.
Hey, Hamish is back.
I've been
talking to you as well, Hamish.
It's hard to get a word in edgewise sometimes with you, Vicky.
Yeah, well, I kept asking you guys to jump in, but every time I stopped, there'd be this quiet time. I was like, okay, fine.
Sorry, AJ's typing again. And Hamish is on a phone call.
Yeah, Hamish is on a phone call. AJ's taking notes. Somebody's got to do it. But
work, it gets in the way.
Yeah, I know. Well, it is the middle of the day for you. I totally get that. But yeah, I'll keep up with you and let you know when I can swing something out that way. And
awesome.
We'll have to plan to do a little meadery tour. It'd be fun.
I would love that so much. An excuse to go visit the local meaderies.
Right?
I mean, I don't need much of an excuse at all. Definitely sounds like fun.
Yeah, well, and it's always more fun to have a chum to go with. Half the time it's John back in the trailer banging on his keyboard and me touring meaderies by myself, which I managed to have a pretty good time, but it's always a lot more fun if you're with your friends. So.
Well, next time, tell him to bring his keyboard in and come play for us.
Oh no, not that.
Oh, you mean like a
No,
computer
this is
keyboard?
yeah,
Oh
he's a
yeah,
project
okay.
manager. Yeah, it's much more mundane and frustrating than making music. Um, but yeah,
Right.
I wish, but I'm sure he does too, given the projects he's having to deal with lately. There's lots of cursing that comes from his corner of the house.
Yeah, that's the no fun kind of keyboard. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I get to listen to what the hell were you thinking? I told you not to do that. What? Oh my God! So it's like, I think I'll go work in the other room for a while, put my headphones on. So yeah, yeah. It's unfortunately not that cool. But if I can, sometimes I can drag him out, but I don't know if he'll make it out there when I come out or not. It all depends on schedules, and that man's been like on the road forever. It's getting kind of stupid, but
Yeah, that
yeah.
is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. So we'll let you get back to your life. Thank you for giving us 2 hours of it. Very cool.
Yeah, thank you for chatting me. I really it really was a pleasure. I enjoyed being on your show.
All right.
Super fun talking to all of you. Hamish for sure.
Yeah. Even though
Yeah,
he
good
was
to see you again.
lurking on mute for a good chunk of the time because he had phone calls.
Well, kind of on mute for a minute there. Sort of
Yeah.
not really, but yeah.
Yeah, thanks for that.
So, all right.
Right on.
Well, yeah,
thank you guys.
yeah, we'll let you get going. And okay, everybody, you want to try John's Mead? It's opmead.com. That's OP as in pony, mead.com. Because nobody can spell Oppegaard properly. Sorry, John.
No worries.
Yeah, he spelled it out for him, and he's like, "Oh, Pegard. Oh, okay. I've been saying Oppegaard all this time. I'm really sorry."
Everybody does all the time. I'll give you one last quick story before I go.
Okay.
I was, as I grew up, I was told that my family pronounced it Oppegaard. Up until a few generations ago, somebody changed it to Oppegaard. And when we went to Oppegaard, Norway, we fully expected everybody to say Oppegaard because we were always told that was the original way to say it. Nobody says it that way. Everybody's been saying it Oppegaard for like 1,000 years. So turns out we were all told wrong. It's one of those family stories. Who knows where it came from? But funny nonetheless. But I stopped correcting people a while ago. I know what you mean.
Yeah. Well, thank you for letting me know the proper one because I did not know, and I've learned something new, so that's a good thing.
Right on. Well, have a good night.
All right, take care,
You
man.
too.
Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah.
So we've got a ton of upcoming stuff because spring is sprung in many places, and it's the pollinating here in North Carolina.
Not
Well,
here.
half the places anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, yeah, except for those places that are on the wrong side of the planet.
And those of us who are still buried in snow.
Yeah, so in some parts here it's the pollinating. So allergies are running amok, and yeah, it's all kinds of fun stuff.
Yeah,
But
I got about a month before that here.
yeah, no, things are already starting to turn yellow here. It's pretty scary. So upcoming March 28th, Boss Meadery has Late Bloomers and Hypheria, one of their musical nights. March 29th, Shram's Mead has an artist reception for Chris Ahern. March 30th, Starlight Mead has their intermediate mead making class. And all of these are on the show page or on the episode page with links to get to the page for this event so you can find out more details. March 30th, also the Brooklyn Women's Homebrew Competition. March 30th is also the Southern California Mead Alliance off-flavor sensory training. April 5th and 6th, the Colony Meadery in Pennsylvania is having their Spring Wine Festival at Bear Creek. This is a big festival, and they're one of the wineries that's, they're the meadery that's there. April 6th, Meridian Hive has their Run for Mead. April 12th, Charm City Meadworks has Two Fierce Chicks present a mead, Mara, and music fundraiser. I don't know what it is, but it sounds like fun. April 12th and 13th, All Wise Meadery in New York City is participating in Wine Riot New York City, which sounds like a really interesting event. There's quite a lot of different wineries and meaderies in there. April 13th and 14th, Starlight Mead is going to have their meet at the 8th Annual Festival of Legends. June 1st, Warped Pours Pour Harder at the Metro South Homebrew League Homebrew Festival. And July 27th is the Orcas Island Cider and Mead Festival. And I saw a post today that V Nectar is doing mead celebrations for the entire month of May. I don't have all the details yet, but I'll get it up on the show when I know more. So if you want to get your event or events on Got Mead, all you need to do is just drop us a line at gotmead@gotmead.com. Let us know. We'll get it up on the show for you. Hamish, you got anything interesting going on down in your neck of the woods for mead?
Not that I've been advised of. No, I don't have anything coming up this half of the year. So yeah, we'll be hopefully making all our meads for the competitions coming up in the second half of the year. But until then, yeah, there's no great events at the minute.
Probably because it's like beyond purple. Is it still beyond purple there?
No, not at all. It's almost cold.
Oh, really? Oh, cool.
Yeah. It was 12 degrees this morning. It was
really?
a low of 12.
Wow. Wow, I wouldn't have thought it'd be this cool this early.
That's Celsius, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But still, 12 was...
And that was at night. That was the morning cool. I think it's probably about 28 now, something like that.
Still, that's not outrageous. I mean,
I don't think we're not getting 12-degree highs quite yet.
The southern hemisphere versus the northern hemisphere.
We're still going down to minus 10 at nights right now.
It's only 22 today. It's lovely.
Yeah,
day.
that sounds downright civilized.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
The sun's shining, the sky is blue.
We're running probably...
The invasive birds are crawling into the trap where I can take them off to be euthanized and all sorts of cool stuff.
Invasive birds?
Yeah.
That's weird. Invasive birds.
Yeah, we've got invasive squirrels.
They're probably trying to kill you because, it's Australia after all.
No, but they're not Australian. That's the point.
Oh, okay. They're those kind of invasive birds. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, then, yeah, that's a whole different story. Then it's surprising that they've lived this long to become invasive. I mean, really, because everything's trying to kill you.
They're pretty damn nasty things, actually.
Oh, sure.
So, all right. Well, then, we'll be back next week. I'm still backfilling the schedule. I got so busy with the conference that I wasn't able to fill out the schedule as far ahead as I'd like. But some of the people that are upcoming on various weeks we're going to have Scott Shar and Bobby Slanzy. And if you've been in the mead world for more than 30 days, you know who Scott Shar is. And the two of them were awarded Polish passports at the MeadCon Mazer Cup because of their prowess in making Polish meads. So we're going to get them on and we're going to pick on them about their Polish passports, and we're going to talk Polish meads. So that should be a really interesting show. And I've got several other people that I'm working on. I'm just trying to get schedules put together because everybody's getting settled back in after Mead Week disruptions. So we'll let you guys know as soon as we know, and should be some good stuff coming up. So in the meantime, we'll see you back here next Tuesday, same bat time, same bat channel. Night all.
Night, everybody.
Good night.